suspended the rules. They remain suspended. Oh, can you turn this on? Is this on?
It's on.
All right. Rules remain suspended, and we are now at item N, development services.
They are on page 32 of your budget document and 98 on your agenda.
Okey-dokey. Anybody briefing this?
Josh.
Oh, Josh, you here? Okay. You can come up and brief. We suspended rules.
33. Yeah, I think he said 32. It's 33.
Yeah, here we go. It's bottom half of 33, David.
I'm sorry, did I say the wrong one?
Yeah.
Yeah, 33, I marked the wrong one.
Copies for everybody here, so.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
How many of you got on?
They have just-
Committee members get enough.
They
You can
have
have
just
mine back, I didn't know
enough.
they
I
would
got a
have.
copy. You good? You just want.
You're there. That's planning right there. So, thank y'all for having me and giving me an opportunity to speak to you guys today. I'm Josh Suddeth, I'm the Director of Development Services for Sumner County. And what development services is, I'll talk about that here in a minute if I get a chance. But we do planning, engineering, floodplain administration, stormwater compliance, which is MS4, municipal separate storm sewer system permitting requirements, BTS, and all that stuff. And in addition, in the last year or so, we've had the grant administration function was moved from the mayor's office to my office as well. And so I gave you just a brief little presentation right here, just to kind of run through it. In terms of our departmental operations, our core mission really has three major activities. First is good customer service, that's first and foremost. Now that might not mean that we give people the answer they want, but we're friendly about it. And we treat everybody the same. Doesn't matter if you're, good buddies with somebody that's important, or you're just a Joe citizen that doesn't know anybody, you're treated exactly the same in our office. Number two, we process development applications. So if you come to the county to want to build anything or do anything construction-wise outside the city limits, it comes through our office at some point. And we're in general, 99% of the time, we're the place you start to confirm that what you want to do meets zoning compliance. We provide staff support to the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and County Commission. So there's certain things we have to do as part of state law, county regulations, the zoning resolution, subdivision regulations. And then three, complying with unfunded mandates. So we have two big ones that we have to comply with. The first is our stormwater program. All jurisdictions over 10,000 people in the state of Tennessee are an MS4 jurisdiction. So that means you have to meet certain stormwater requirements related to water quality, and there's a whole lot that goes into that. I can spend a whole lot of time talking about all that, but that's one thing, and the other is FEMA requirements, so federal requirements. Sumner County participates in the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, and that's not just something that you get because you exist. You have to do certain things, or the citizens don't get to have flood insurance. And so that's something as county commissioners that y'all might hear complaints or issues about from time to time, where people say, it's so hard to do this, it's so hard to do that, when they're in the floodplain. And it's just the way it is. The regulations that we have on the books are literally given to us by TEMA, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, and they come from TEMA to them. And so they give them to us and they say, adopt these. And that's not all. They also say enforce these. And if you don't enforce them, they will take you out of the program, and all the citizens in the county will lose their flood insurance. That's what they threaten to do from time to time. They're doing that right now with Murray County and a few other counties where they've taken them by the scruff of the neck and are really beating them up because they haven't been doing what they're supposed to do. So all that being said, there's a lot of stuff we do, there's a lot of stuff we have to do. But there are things that we can work on. There's lots of flexibility that we have. Our activities, what we do, if you go to the next page after this, you'll see my fantastic artwork. I do work on commission, for artistic things. We have 420 square miles of unincorporated territory. For comparison, the city of Gallatin is about 35, 36. So we're about 10, 15 times bigger than the city of Gallatin by geography. By population, it's about like Hendersonville. We have about 56,000 residents across the unincorporated area, and that 400 square miles. And so our staff, which is what it is, that we have to provide all those services for that entire area. There's no difference between the folks that live right outside of Hendersonville and the folks that live way up on the Kentucky line. They get the same level of service and they have the same requirements. It cuts both ways. And so that's what we do. Our current operational environment, we're busy. Planning Commission, Commissioner Klein is on the Planning Commission. He can testify. We stay pretty busy on those agendas. The Board of Zoning Appeals agendas are still robust as well. We sent that packet out just a few minutes ago. Building activity, it has moderated a little bit from the COVID peak. That was abnormal. There was some really weird stuff going on at that time. We have seen that moderate a little bit, which it probably needed to do. I don't think that was sustainable. And you're seeing probably property values start to moderate just a little bit in sales and that kind of stuff too. As far as other things in our operational environment, as I mentioned a minute ago, grant administration function was added in 2020, this current fiscal year. I think that's working out pretty well. It meshes real well with what we do with engineering and project management. Ms. Norfleet helps us with a whole bunch of projects, and vice versa. It fits. A lot of what she does has to do with construction and that sort of stuff. So it's been a good thing, and she's easy to work with as well. Our engineering function continues to make good strides on big projects or major projects. New Shackle Island, Drakes Creek signalization project is moving forward right now. We're in the about to get in the right-of-way phase. The survey is complete at this time, and they're going to start reaching out to those property owners to talk about. There's a couple of property owners we're going to have to buy some right-of-way from as part of that project. This is a federal project that comes through the NPO, and that's all baked into that process. The Hollows is another project that we're working on right now. We selected a consultant for that. We're negotiating a contract with them. We'll be coming back to the county commission at some point before too terribly long, or to the budget committee to talk about the design and that kind of stuff as we promised to do. Our MS4 program, the stormwater program, got a clean audit from TDEC. One thing we're proposing that David has seen, I know in our budget, we have a third-party contract with a company called CEC, Civil Environmental Consultants. We've done $50,000 a year with them in the past. It's been money well spent. They help us with a lot of things. I've noticed in the last fiscal year or two, they seem to have a little bit of trouble spending all that money. And so one of the things that I've done is to reduce that to $25,000. If we need more next year, if it turns out that's not adequate, maybe I'll come back and ask to increase that. But I think $25,000 will be adequate rather than $50,000. Another thing related to stormwater, y'all saw an email I sent. We received a $27,000 check related to that Monsanto settlement. That can be used for any number of things. Planning commission projects that are going on now. We've done a tweak to the regs related to lot sizes for lots with sewer and lots without public water. I think it's going to be something that's going to address some probably inappropriate densities. Would you agree with that, Commissioner Klein? And in some parts of the county, good thing. That's going to go to the full commission in June. We've got introductory work on an overall map update. That's one thing I want to talk to you guys about. We have very limited ability to actually do mapping and that kind of thing. I've talked to Commissioner Brown about that quite a bit. We're going to need some assistance with some of that stuff when we start looking at the overall zoning map of the county probably. And then we're working on some tweaks to the subdivision regulations with the Planning Commission. TDEC came and talked to us the other day and recommended that we adopt new standards for step systems out in the county, which is decentralized sewer systems. We've secured a set of regulations, so we're going to bring something before too long to the Planning Commission there. And we're also going to revise some standards for new roads in the county as well, make them last longer and be built better. Moving on to the next sheet. So challenges. Challenges that we have, evolving focus. I think in the past, with past commissions, a lot of our focus was you know, our name says it all, development services. It was a very developer-focused kind of outlook that we had, working with developers and assisting developers and that kind of thing. Had good conversations with a couple of county commissioners about maybe change that focus. You know, maybe that doesn't reflect the county commission's outlook right now. So it's been proposed, I know, by a couple of county commissioners, maybe looking at that name, development services, call it something else. I have an idea for that, but I'll talk about it here in just a second. But But there are items, the mapping thing in particular, conversations I've had with Commissioner Brown about that. People come to us with needs as far as, you know, can you get us a map that shows this? Can we look at, how do we look at that kind of thing? Unlike most planning departments, go to Rutherford County, Wilson County, a lot of other places, we don't have that GIS component in general county government. The assessor's office has something there, but they're most of the time working on assessor stuff, and they don't have time to work on planning stuff. So that mapping capability is a big challenge. We have to really rely on charity, frankly. The folks, you know, in other jurisdictions that I know, friends that I have at TDOT and other agencies, I'll call them and they help me. They help me put together maps for you guys sometimes because we really just aren't able to do it. Another big challenge, and this is not to woe is me or anything, but bandwidth issues for me personally, as the director. There's not a lot of time for me to think strategically the way that we're structured right now. I'm going from, frankly, a lot of crisis to crisis to crisis a lot of the times, dealing with things that are probably a little bit below my pay grade, just to be honest with you, on a lot of things. A lot of contractors, surveyor, developer crisis, little things that really aren't that big of a deal that can be handled by somebody else tend to come to my level because there's nowhere else for them to go. I tend to struggle deadline to deadline is how it works for us. We have to get the packets out, we have to get the meeting notice, we have to have the meeting, then it starts all over again. The submittal comes in, you get the staff comments out, it's just a perpetual circle. So we're structured in a way that it puts a lot of that onus on me personally, and I spend a lot of time on administrative tasks. Another issue, zoning enforcement, illegal businesses, which has been a big issue the county commission has talked about with us some. This commission, just to be frank, I think this commission is a lot more serious about that than the last commission was. It's not a knock on the last commission. I think this commission approaches things with a you do what you're supposed to kind of mindset with these folks and wants us to actually do something about it. And so that makes me happy. That makes all of us happy as staff. But just know it is, as you can probably tell, working with us on some of these, it's laborious. It takes a long time. And I will say as well, the county law office, they've shown that they really have a good focus on this stuff, and they're helping Todd Hubbard and Marshall in the codes office and my office on a lot of these. And so I think we're heading in the right direction there. But with regard to the illegal businesses, a whole lot of those, you might think they're in the hinterlands of the county, and some are. But a lot of them are in there pretty close to the cities, and what used to be called the planning regions. And folks that have been around for a while know the cities used to control an area outside the city limits, and we didn't. But the county commission and through the actions of the cities, all that went away. We assumed, what was the mileage, 45 square miles of new planning region. That's pretty urbanized, relatively speaking, right outside of the city limits. So we took all that over when the cities abandoned them in 2022. And so those areas where we have a lot of these illegal businesses and non-conforming things and stuff that the cities didn't pay attention to because they didn't care. And there's a lot of those kinds of issues. And so we took over something the size of Franklin, Tennessee, and didn't get any staff or any resources to actually take care of it. So that's another challenge that we do have. And another one, and I know every department's gonna come and tell you all this, the market's tight, hard to keep people. Staff marketability is an issue. We have folks that leave like everybody else. What we do is construction related. All my employees, frankly, can get a job that pays a lot more than the private sector or with another community. That's just a fact. But you know, we all like working here, and that is something that we do continue. So like a lot of other departments, we're not unique there. And so our current org chart here, just to show you what we got, we have 10 FTE total here. You see the kind of the way we're structured. Go to the next slide, as it were. See, we have 2 right now that are vacant, engineering technician and MS4 technician. Those are essentially inspector positions. And so with the way that things have kind of evolved, we're not approving and are probably not going to approve a whole lot of really big planned unit development, residential developments. We're not going to have a Westbrook come through and get approved by this county commission anytime soon. And so some of our resources were allocated toward that kind of development, which is to some extent winding down. I think there's some of that stuff that's out there, and they have a right to do what they're doing, but there's not going to be a lot of that new stuff. And so something that I want to talk to you guys about, I don't know if I call it a proposal, I want to get some feedback from you guys. Is it a good idea? If you look on this slide here with the same one, those 2 positions in total with salary and benefits, and David can correct me if I missed anything there, but I went from the salary sheet that we had. $153,474 for those 2 positions with salary and benefits. What I would like to do, talking about the bandwidth issues for me, is to take those positions and to combine them and redirect them. And if you go to the next slide, a planning and GIS assistant director, essentially somebody to kind of help me, get that BZA packet together and help me, do some of the higher level things that aren't processing permit applications, but also find that planning guy. And there are a lot of them out there that has those mapping skills and those GIS skills that we need. So I'm looking a little bit of a specialist that I'm looking for, but I know people. I know people in the county that work in different places that do just exactly what I'm wanting. So it's not somebody that would be impossible to find, I don't think. And so what I've done here is salary benefits for that employee would be 118, and so the other two was 153. So if we combine those positions and went to this and allowed this, you'd have a cost savings of about $35,000, basically in doing that. Now, as any good bureaucrat would do, I'm not proposing just leave all that money on the table, so. What I did want to say though is, and I brought this up to Mr. Schoaf and David a number of times, the annual salaries comparison, I make less money than the Rutherford County Stormwater Manager does. So it's not even close. So I would like that to be looked at. I'm not saying I need to make as much as they do. I'm not saying that the county engineer, the stormwater manager, but without those two guys, if those two guys leave, I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna real buy without the county engineer. You guys that are working with Marshall or Joe, that they do a real good job, and they're knowledgeable, and I can't just pull somebody in off the street that has the construction knowledge that they do. Marshall was the public works director for the city of Hendersonville, and we got a bargain when we hired him here, but we've got it. And so I want to try to keep them if we can. So if y'all could look at that, there's cost savings there. If there's something that could be done, it would be great. I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about with you guys, I sent out an email yesterday. And I did not bring enough copies of this, but I do have a job description for that assistant director position that I was talking about, the planning and GIS person. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is fees. So you guys saw, and I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it, but I sent out an email yesterday with what Rutherford County's doing. We look at Rutherford County a lot for what they're doing. They've had a lot of problems and did stuff wrong for a long time, but they got their act together in the last few years, I think.
What's their population?
They're about 300 something thousand. They're a good bit bigger than that.
Look at this election commission.
And so, but what they do is a good, we look at peers. It might be Rutherford County, Wilson County we look at, Williamson to some extent. We look at different folks around the state. But this fee schedule is something that I just wanted to touch on with you guys. What they've done is, they weren't able to get the impact fees like nobody else was, obviously. The impact fees were not addressed by the state legislature. And so they've decided to get that money somewhere else. And so they're gonna jack up fees. It's gonna cost you $3,000 or $4,000 in fees with their planning and engineering department to develop it in Rutherford County now. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. And I don't know whether all this will pass their county commission, but it's moving through the process. Their process is just like ours.
Does that capture any development in the city?
Just in the county. Just in the county.
352, so we're going.
Just in the county. And so I'm not necessarily proposing that we adjust all of our fees to this level. If you guys want to, that's y'all's decision. That's a county commission decision.
The county's not what's causing the problems, the cities that are causing our
That's right.
financial problems, not the
That's right.
With
county.
inflation, how the message is what they want.
Well, but on that said, I mean, if you want to constrain, and I'm not saying we necessarily want to do this, but if you do want to constrain growth, basically put boundaries around the cities, I mean, one way to do that is to increase costs and increase fees in the county. I'm not saying we want to, I'm just saying that's, just economically, that's how that works.
Once inflation is coming one or two places, the reality is gonna come fee for service, or property tax from existing owners for the growth. So this is probably the best solution here for both, somewhere in between.
How much do you, and I should know this because I haven't looked at it, but how much revenue do you currently generate?
We did, in 2022, we generated about $500,000 in revenue.
So,
And I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
so it's non-trivial.
Oh, no, it's pretty good for a planning department. most planning departments across the state, and then David's looked at this too, they don't aim for self-sufficiency. Now, coach departments do. Coach departments
So,
are almost always self-sufficient.
So on the revenue side though, if you,
If you combine my department and Marshall Wright's department though, we basically break even.
And that would be covering costs of utilities and vehicles
That's
too.
everything.
They pretty much almost cover everything.
well, I mean, so, you know, if you jack up the base fee, if you jack up your fees too much, you know, it will constrain it, right? Which, if that's what you are trying to, if that's the policy you're going after, I'm not necessarily saying we want to do that either, but there is another sweet spot you can go for to say, hey, just move it up to account for inflation, to account for just, you know, general increase of expenditures.
Have the increase.
And you could, I mean, so, you know, if we're looking at ways to increase revenue, so, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna take a step back because this is important, and I'm not breaking my rule here, because I'm not questioning, I'm just stating this. I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is a business, and you've got revenues and you've got expenditures. And so what we're really trying to do, I think everybody on this table is really trying to say, hey, look, we don't want to keep jacking up property taxes on everybody to pay for what a few people want to do. What this does is put a levy of an expense or levy a fee on people who want to do a specific thing. So I do think, I mean, I don't know that we need to do it now. I'm just saying that this is, if we're looking at ways to continue to help offset and prevent property tax increases, this may be one that we want to look at.
This is just the equivalent of sales tax.
That's right.
You don't pay it if you don't do.
You're not paying it if you don't
Well,
use it.
my theory is you've already missed the boat.
Yeah, that was what I was driving at the beginning of the presentation is, you know, the time to have really done this, and nobody did. I mean, I thought the world was coming to an end like everybody else did in 2020. You know, I didn't think we were gonna have a boom, you know what I mean? I thought it was gonna be like a recession essentially is what I'm saying. And so, nobody saw that the construction activity was gonna do what it did at that time. But the time to jack up fees was then, because we made a killing at that time. But now it's hard to know what the future holds.
But again, it's the cities that are killing us, not the county. And that's where the cost is coming from for schools. You just don't have the money to build the infrastructure. That's why the Property Taxpayer Protection Act that Rutherford was pushing would have benefited, because you could have captured that from the cities. That's the beauty of that. Whereas this doesn't capture the cities, and that's just.
But you can't capture your inflation, so.
Yeah, I know,
It's
but,
not,
you know,
it's not.
I mean, it's not-
I mean,
It's
your
it's
point.
not, it's not undoable, I mean.
But it doesn't help us with the city's continued growth.
But if you put 20%, not what Josh is showing, but if you just put 20% on them right now, that would capture inflation since the last increase. Leave it alone a few years and we come by and capture another 20, 10, whatever inflation is. If you put 20 on, it's gonna about capture inflation.
Yeah, and there's probably some fees here that we could look at. Some of them might not need to change at all, like, because our fee structure is very similar to Rutherford counties. Where they're going in terms of prices is out there, but the fees that we charge, I mean, they're the same anywhere you go, because it's the same kinds of services that get provided, right? Plat review, site plan review, construction inspection.
Yeah, I mean,
And so there's some of those that I don't think are capturing the effort that we put into them right now, like the land disturbance permit fee. We've added it 300 right now. It's been there for a good long while. I don't think that fee captures the amount of time and effort at the staff level that goes into that.
I'd like to ask you-
Some of them have many inspections.
I'd like to understand, I mean, I did skim through your email last night or yesterday about this, but like, what would your, not right now, but like, what would your recommendation be for each of these, right? Because, I mean, we've got the data, but I don't really know how this translates into what you,
Right,
what
well,
you being the expert. think.
There's a couple that the land disturbance permit fee, which is one that generates a couple $100,000 of that $500,000 I was talking about. It's probably our biggest single revenue source. I would recommend increasing that pretty significantly. I think
Sorry,
because
I started geeking out on this.
we've always tried to use that fee to capture the staff effort that goes into it in terms of the cost.
Hey,
The
guys,
other one is
just
things related to the war zone.
sorry to interrupt,
10
but
minutes over.
we're 10 minutes over. Thanks for reminding me here. I started geeking out on this. So I don't want to, this has been super helpful. I just want to get the bottom line.
Sure.
Yeah, we could go for a long time, and this is very important. Any last minute questions here?
Well, not questions, but I would like to advocate for this GIS personnel, because this is something that we needed in the education committee, because we're trying to look at future planning.
I get it.
Trying to keep any surprise
You're talking about
schools
consolidating.
from
Yes, sir.
happening.
Well, that's just
And this
your
would help.
decision to make.
I tried to find somebody to help him.
No, but
Because
you're the
that's our
department
next
head, so-
phase.
If y'all are willing to allow it.
Yeah, there's three different conversations.
Yeah, we just got, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily in disagreement, but I think we're trying to not deliberate today and instead just get the recommendation and we'll do our
What you're
deliberation
saying,
tomorrow.
is probably 20% increase in fees.
Any-
Capture inflation, I'd say.
I think probably overall. Now, some-
Okay.
like I said, some of those fees, they don't need to be
If
double,
you could
triple,
just come back with a recommendation,
Sure.
we'll
That's
consider it.
just for inflation, on change. of
Any,
growth. That's just-
any other questions here?
Just real quick, on this new Shackle Drake's Creek,
Sir.
am I correct in understanding that the city of Hendersonville is contributing to this
Yes, sir,
project?
they already have.
Do you know how much, just approximate how much they're
It
contributing?
was, it was half, so the local match was $400,000 on that project.
From the city.
And so we got half of that from them, so I think they contributed $200,000. I'll confirm that amount, it's been a while since.
I won't hold you to that specific amount, I just wanted.
It's probably sheet, we got to hand it a minute.
It's gonna be a good project.
Yeah. Any other, final, we need to move on here.
You might want to ask him really quickly how his ARPA is going for the drainage project.
And I mentioned that real briefly, maybe I didn't, I think I
You
skipped
did.
over that.
Because we're going to talk about ARPA.
Yeah, we are.
tomorrow.
Go
already
on.
gave us.
We're moving forward with that one, so, we've selected a
I
consultant.
didn't see it either.
OHM, I believe was the finalist that we've selected. We're negotiating that contract with them right now, and they'll initiate the design. What I had committed to do, with the budget committee when I came to talk to you guys several months ago, once we get those design concepts together, I'm gonna bring that back to you guys, let you look at it. Hey, here's what it is, here's how much it's gonna cost. We've told them what the overall, here's how much money they have to work with. And we'll see what we can get done for that amount, but I'll bring it back to you guys before we do anything.
Got it. Thank you. So we're confident, I think that you're doing that. Thank you, Mr. Sutter.
Thank you.
Well, now here it is, Josh. Which one is that? I think it ended up being, yeah, I think it's more budget, I think they both ended up being slightly more.
This is what
We both budgeted 250.
he's recommending.
Yeah, it ended up being less than this one.
It's like 2.2 million.
Go from 300 to 500.
To help get you back on track, come up here, soil conservation's not gonna be here, the only thing they've asked for is whatever the CPI is, it's a small department, it's on page, I'm sorry, page 76, but they've not asked for it.
Yeah, these ones and this one.
Which will put you to general sessions judge, which his first one is on page 45
Skip
of the
soil
budget
conversation.
document and page 100.
Soil? Oh, we did.
Well, it's not about the problem, it's just about dollars.
Good afternoon, everybody.
We may have a tough fight on this one.
I have a couple of things I need to add. Came in this past week that we were not aware of. We contacted finance and they told us to bring it today. As you may be aware of, under my budget, Division 1, we're responsible for driver's improvement class out of my budget. That typically has been $1,800 a year. Their fees went up.
Sorry, what page are we on? We're just trying to.
Well, his first budget is, if you look, for general sessions on page 45, and his salaries are on page 100, so is it, which one are we talking about, Jay?
We're talking about Division 1, we're talking about Division 1. That's under my full
And-
docket.
Got
Page
it.
45, we were discussing right
And then
now.
page
And it
100.
is,
Got it,
And page 100 is the salary sheet.
got it. Sorry, Judge.
That's okay. It says we pay, currently, our budget has, for $1,800 a year, they've gone up. It'll be, I'm asking for an increase there of to $2,040. They're going from, they're going up from 140 a month to 170 a month.
We're talking about this line item right there.
Yeah.
They can pay this.
Yeah, we got their request last week. We received an email April the 27th, saying they're going from $140 a month to $170 a month. That's not reflected in this. So that $1,800 needs to be $2,040.
Okay.
In addition, we have maintenance agreement, it's $2,500, I think is
Looking at
where
this, I
that.
don't know what this is.
We've received communication from BIS. We're required in both general sessions court to record all of the preliminary hearings. BIS is the system that we have currently that records all of those. Those are stored on the cloud. They have to be made available. We had one, for instance, a couple of years ago. We had to go back to the early 1970s to pull a preliminary hearing on somebody who was on death row to supply the preliminary hearing for a federal court. So these are things that we keep long term. They're going up from 380 to 425. It's on the software. It's going to be down here. I believe that's where it's at. It's going from 380 to 425, so I'm asking for an increase in that just to cover that cost. Well, I think it may be under data processing supplies is where it may be.
Just go, put that 300 bed in notes for 25.
And then also on the software part is that's where it's at, it's under software.
I'm sure he's mentioned
They said actually.
like,
Data processing services. Data processing.
In person, I can tell that they got number.
It's 101, right up there at the top.
Yeah, we go.
Data processing services.
That's already got 500 in it.
Yeah. They're increasing, we also have other software in there as well. We have Adobe, it's going up
Pretty well compared to the other
$50.
software we've had. 70,000 versus 150.
I think over 300. That's the general session. This is also the one where they added the one full-time employee last year.
Y'all were kind enough to grant me the second judicial assistant that kind of conforms with what Division 3 had. She's been phenomenal. The flow of our office has been just totally smoothed out since that program, since you all allowed, I'm asking that be funded, continue. She was a county employee transferred over from the clerk's office, and it's been a very smooth transition, and it's really been a benefit to our office. And I was telling Commissioner Hyde, Chairman Hyde, before we started this, just so that this budget committee is aware, we're now looking at, between the two courts, we'll handle somewhere over 32,000 cases between the two courts. It's over 16,000 in each court each year. So it's not going to be too distant future that I'm going to come back to this body and ask to consider looking at another judge. It's about 5,000 more cases than most judicial personnel handle. So just so that you're aware of that.
Growth great.
The next one he's got is actually flood court. It's on page.
Growth great, yeah. It doesn't pay
I'm
for
sorry,
itself.
Probation is
page
next.
57-101.
Probation is a department we.
No, you go. Crime doesn't pay.
No. Probation though does pay.
So,
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. So I'm tracking this one additional that we had approved previously. What, I see here this temp position?
It was, how it was funded was a full-time temporary position. That's the only way you could get through this board with consideration that it would be made a full-time position.
Oh, I see.
This year, yeah.
Right.
I remember that discussion where we talked about it being adding those hours.
Right.
So, okay, got it.
All right. Moving on to probation. Probation brings in revenue. It pays for itself. We'll bring in excess of what we spend in that department. Right now, we have split between two, a county probation, and we have a private probation department that works within our two courts as well. You know, one of the things I've talked about is at some point in time, probably, I have not budgeted for it, but at some point in time in the next little bit, I'm going to need to add at least one more person in that department. I don't know when that's going to be, but
Probation officer.
another probation officer. When I do that, it will be a self-sufficient officer because I'm able to add more to county probation, and therefore they'll collect more money for county probation. As to probation, the only other thing that we've asked for in addition is the need to purchase computers for our probation department. Their computers are about 9-10 years old. We're gonna need to buy a new computer system for them. And I'm hoping that we can do that in correspondence when we make the move. That's when we're looking at hopefully getting those set up in the new courthouse, so they'll be ready day one. That's the really only increase there, and that is for the other, that is on line 1406, so that processing equipment, where we've asked for an additional funding just to pay for a computer system for that department and the software that goes along with it.
And his next one is actually, his last one, which is drug court, it's on page 46 and 102. Drug court is self-funding with the drug fees, alcohol fees, and the grants. But if you can go to the front page, which I think this is more important, but I think it's a really good solution for it. If you go down and look at our projections for the reserve on drug court, it's going to be, what we're looking right now is about 22,000 from being self-sufficient, but you've got all the new money coming in from,
Mental health court grant.
well, the opioid. So I think that's when the opioid committee meets, that should be possibly one of the discussions, using that money to make this court self-sufficient. It has been in the past, but it's getting tighter and tighter every year. And it probably will be self-sufficient next year because Mr. Merriman, which is paid out of a grant, he usually budgeted 100%, we only spend 75, and he gets the rest of his grant or that grant canceled.
No, he still has the grant, but the grant's not enough to cover his full salary.
So that's why we've got there, because the grant's not
Right.
really. But the same thing, you've got all the opioid money coming in that has to be used in some form for drug treatment or something. It
That
would
makes sense.
definitely fit into this court, and possibly some of the discussions because of their location, if I'm gonna be used for that too. There's some discussion about it.
In addition, just so this body knows a little bit about what we're doing, we also have the 501(c) foundation that helps drug court with funding and stuff. They were just issued a grant, their foundation was, to purchase a house for people that are in recovery court to use. So with that grant, that foundation's actually gonna own one of the homes, and including in that is the addition of a couple of bedrooms that will allow even more people to be part of our program. And I know Judge Hunter, who's now on the foundation, is out knocking on doors, and we're looking at as many grants as we can get to help subsidize that as well.
So is the county on the hook for maintenance of that?
No.
It's all owned by the,
All by the foundation.
we don't, we're not, there's no liability,
There's
nothing,
nothing
okay.
tied to the county except that foundation has this house, and they allow these people in our program to live there.
Got
They
it.
pay rent.
That's
the whole
great.
works.
I mean, that's good for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
And we're a little over time still and trying to catch up.
I
I don't want
understand.
to
Is
cut you
there
off.
anything that you all have
Go ahead.
questions for me?
I've got just a quick question.
All right.
Well, a few minutes ago, you said a not so distant future about potentially a new judge. What, put a little, can you time box that? How far out is not so distant future?
Well, let's just say that if we had, what the average is about 12,000 cases per court, we would be in that neighborhood right now. I mean, we're gonna do a little over 32,000 cases. That's civil, collections, and criminal. Criminal's not going down any. Civil's increased, and our collection docket, as I was telling Mr. Hyde a while ago, I average about 220 to 225 cases on my collection docket on Thursdays, every other Thursday.
3 to
That's
5
a-
years be an accurate assessment.
Be less than that. I would say
Okay.
probably 2 to 3, or 2 to 4 probably.
And this new courthouse, it's.
The new courthouse, there is a built-in
Yeah, there's-
courtroom on the
There's already
second
one
floor.
there.
Yeah, that's what I was.
It's not being used. It's not.
I
being
remember
finished,
it
but
during
there
the,
will be.
during the tour, there was
There's
plan for that
one
growth.
on each floor,
Yep.
but it's not gonna be built out.
But just want to bring that to this body's attention that, I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, we just added to.
Last time you guys added a judge, the DA had to have an additional employee. And then there's a statute, if you provide one to the DA, you gotta provide one to the public defender.
Yeah.
So when you start adding that cord,
There's,
and there's one that was added back, I think, in 2014, maybe?
14.
Yeah, 14.
so
So
not,
you're talking a lot of money between the judge, his staff, the office, the
Bailiffs.
DA, bailiffs, so yeah, we're talking probably near
so can
$1
we,
million.
I mean, when we start doing long-term projections, we probably want to put that in there, although, and I hate to cut this off, just trying to keep us at time.
Sure.
Is there anything else for this year's budget? And thank you for bringing that up, it's an
No,
important
I
point.
wanted you all to be aware that, I know Rutherford County's been talked about a lot, especially, when I was at a conference recently, I got to tour their courthouse, because it's very similar, obviously, to what our courthouse is. And he asked me how many cases we handled a year, and I told him he about fell out the floor.
Well, that's just because you're more efficient, Judge Bland.
We do move cases, we do.
And there's a fee that can be slightly adjusted for that.
Can be.
It's for the increases, I believe, since 1991, when General Sessions judge, and required benefits, which would be Social Security, Medicare, and a few of those. It's not a lot, but it will help you maybe, $100,000. That's about it.
Any other notes?
I thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Judge Bland.
Judge. And the assessor of property is next, and you're actually only 2 minutes off schedule now.
Yep.
He's on page 40 and 103, and let's go ahead and hit salaries first. One thing to mention this year, and it won't affect you this year, but it may some point in the future, is there was one full-time employee that was eliminated, and the salary was the same amount, they actually made 2 full-time employees. The other full-time employee did not take health, so it's not costing you any more now, but they may cost you more in the future if somebody replaces that. This is disclosure. And that's his salary number. There's no changes other than the 6% cost of living, and then there's the
Do you see on
So I have, well, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt here. I have one question, but go ahead. I guess if we just want to kind of cut to it, the difference here on the personal property personnel, $103,000 change. Is that a new person here?
Now, let me tell you what happened on here, and this is one that you guys probably want to discuss, but he had, was an assistant, was that his label?
Oh, sorry, mapping, yeah, sorry, it's mapping tech and field rep, my bad.
He actually eliminated one full-time person, but he actually hired 2 full-time people that was the same amount of money. The only way that's ever gonna negatively impact you is on health insurance, and right now, one of them's not taking health insurance, but it may impact you in the future.
Right, John had a previous chief deputy, and I chose not to replace the chief deputy. I needed 2 employees. I needed to fill them to do the work, do the field work. Now, that's the only way I could see to get it. So,
Okay, I see. So you're dropping out, is that the master assessor? Oh, no, sorry, that was the assistant. So you're dropping that guy, and then you added him down there. So your net there is only about 26,000, 26,000 difference. Is that?
It's 156. It netted out to the same, but if you look right here, Matt, if you look at this line right here, this shows the total changes to make their current salary. So it only affected the things he did, the salary changes by $456. Since they were all full-time, Social Security, Medicare, and retirement are percentages. The only thing that would vary having 1 employee versus 2
Is the
you have to pay
insurance.
additional health insurance. One of them didn't take it now.
No, I'm tracking
We
all
didn't know he
that.
did that till he sent down the other employee. I don't think he realized that generally that's not allowed, but he's in the position, so we went ahead and hired the person.
You're saying right now it's 456 less for those 2 employees in the one.
Right. Other than health insurance.
But if they take the health insurance.
Well, the person's not taking.
One,
I'm
but
saying
in
right
the
now.
future, it may come.
Yeah, I got
So
it.
And honestly, he didn't know that wasn't allowed at the total dollars, but
this is.
he sent up the stuff is when we told him.
But this is my question then. So that does that $103,000 for that change, does that include the potential for health insurance or no?
No, that's
It does
just
not.
salaries.
Okay,
So
got
if
it.
you pull these sums right here from the 7029,
Now we're netting out.
that nets out,
Negative
other than that
456,
456, pretty close to
Yeah,
what
no, I
6%.
get it.
That's
I'm
without
just
the health
comparing.
insurance.
Yeah, no, I'm
They
just
do it,
comparing.
we back up.
Yeah.
About that right there would be your 6% cost of living minus about $456, that's what that is.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because they kind of
Got
net
it.
to each other for that.
I get it.
Yeah, the health is, show me what the health line's at, that's when I'm talking about health insurance.
Oh, I see.
Right, and one of your employees did not take health, so it's not gonna cost you any more this year, but it may in the future.
Got it.
And honestly, he wasn't aware that people aren't allowed to add full-time undocketed positions, so by the time he sent it down to us and we sent payroll, he'd already hired him, and he was new. That's generally not.
The previous chief deputy resigned. He left. He had already made arrangements. So I had his salary and I needed two. And for what he was making, I was able to work it in the budget, except for his retirement.
Well, no, he said his health.
His health, yes.
His health. And he'll be okay on his budget this year because they didn't take health, but otherwise he would have been short on your
Right.
budget.
And the only other thing that I was asking for is vehicle.
Well, that's under capital. He needed postage, is that one?
Okay, this is a reappraisal year, so my postage is going to go up.
Surety bonds, because,
No, it's software.
I'm sorry, stop it, you want surety bonds.
Where's the vehicle?
Software, you're asking for the software program for the, I think he's on the personal property or something. Is that software?
Software, yeah. It's no, it's for the whole thing.
Audit services.
And the audit services is something we don't control. The state mandates that be done, and it doubled on us.
And they mandate how it has to be done. Because if you don't sample it the way they want it to be done, then they have an issue with it.
Well, we're on a sampling program, so the state picks the companies. Now, we can go in and sub companies if they've been audited already, but we have to sub them for a like company, so it doesn't change the dollar amount. And that's the volume that came back this year from the state.
And this is all based on a court order, where there was a lawsuit
Yeah.
several years ago involving personal property and the railroads. So if we want to collect personal property, we have to audit it.
And in the past, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think the audits have actually brought in more money than the audits are costing.
Yeah, that varies.
It's very.
Yeah, it varies.
And that's one thing about personal property tax, there's no punishment for reporting it wrong, and they have, 16 months to change it?
18 months, if they timely file. They have 18 months to go in and just change it.
So if this audit finds an issue because they filled out a crappy personal property tax report, they figure out that it's wrong, then it'll actually decrease it, so it goes both directions.
Yeah.
And that's one reason when we do property taxes, we have problems because it's wrong deadline, and these people, some of us don't do a good job filling them out. Wouldn't that be a good way to say it, John? They send in bad.
So the only thing on capital expenditures you ask for is a vehicle. I mean,
Pardon?
it's a vehicle.
Truck.
Yeah.
Got it. Any other
Trucks
questions?
are worn out. So,
What is, can you define what that means?
Yeah.
well over 100,000 miles, most of them.
Well, that's pretty subjective.
Well-
For some of us. Yeah.
We're out every day, and if you look to other departments that help fill them, we're way
We turned
behind.
down planning.
Are they maintenance issues?
No, we keep them maintained. We do the oil changes,
Okay.
all that stuff on a regular basis.
As he's saying, it become like the transmission.
I've got a couple that are sitting out there that won't go on gov deals because they are worn completely out. Transmission, motor issues.
They do have issues then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Veterans is on page 76 in your budget packet and page 104 in your salary.
I didn't really prepare a presentation. I'm hoping you give us less money next year, additional part-time person, so we can do a better job for the county. VA just announced numbers. We're up 19.2% overall VA expenditures from FY 21 to 22. We do have a large one-time increase in expense for our annual training. We've got to go to Knoxville this year instead of outside Nashville. I think you'll see that budget line for our travel is going to go up quite a bit, but it should be a one-time.
So you're just asking for that one part-time employee
Yep.
that you had brought up, and your total salary is going down.
About 11,870.
Total salaries didn't go up.
Well, but your total budget for the
Total
entire
budget goes
department is
down.
11,000.
Two of them do
Yeah.
not take health insurance because
So that's where
they're
that,
veterans.
Yeah, because you guys got TRICARE.
That's where you're saving, that and your software, there wasn't a whole lot where you're asking for software.
Yeah, if we get that
So
part-time person, we have to
It's
buy the
net
additional
debt.
software.
I mean, it's fine.
That's what they've asked for related to that. And he's just asking to make the same as the last, I think, director, he didn't ask for an additional cost.
No, I know, and that, I just want to note that that is commendable, that you don't ask for.
Well, I mean, honestly, when we talk about this, I mean, I'm doing this job because I'm going to serve, and I kind of want to make our place the best place. We've got a lot of folks coming back from other counties because they're getting great service here, and we're pretty proud of that. So. One thing I did find out late, I found out that there's a veteran service officer with about 20 years experience in Robertson County who's retiring this year. But he is making himself available for contract. So I know we're trying to hand back 11,000 something dollars. If I can hand back $6,000 and keep 6,000 of that more to have him as a contractor, we could increase our capacity by just contracting him to provide 200 to 300 hours during the course of the fiscal year. I recommend that we do that, because we only have one other person.
Can you just make a note in there?
No, he's also going to be doing with Robertson County and maybe with
So he
Davis.
does it as a business?
He will be, yes.
Okay.
He currently is an accredited service officer employee of the
The
county.
reason I'm
That's-
asking is
yeah.
there's that discussion between employee and contractor, if you have people doing like jobs, you need to make sure you're under the IRS safe harbor rules. One of them would be that he's actually running a business. We're not basically trying to avoid payments.
Yeah.
That would be a concern there. We need to make sure he does, he's running a business as far as the rules.
Can you make note of that, and then we'll consider it, but
It was late breaking after all this got turned in.
we'll
So I met
consider
with him
it.
a month later.
The health insurance, I know you said there's, I guess, two that aren't, like, is that just,
They got
Because you have
TRICARE.
veterans?
They got TRICARE.
Yeah.
So that's brand new?
Rebecca, the previous director, had taken, I think, $11,000. She was on health insurance for a while, but she got approved for Champ VA, and she rolled off of it right before she left.
okay.
I'm a retired veteran, so I have TRICARE. Johnny, the new veteran service officer, is the spouse of a permanently disabled veteran. She's got Champ VA, so she gets her health care through the VA. So we all have health care coverage, and this is the nature of hiring veterans.
Yeah.
And partly, we're required to hire veterans in at least one of the jobs. We've been kind of targeting them for all of them, and a lot of times we find veterans that don't need health insurance.
Yeah, I was just trying to,
Actually, it's
I was
40,000.
Making sure it's not coming back.
No, actually, the health.
well,
here's
that,
what-
but I was more curious about why it was there last year.
Is actually $40,145. Two things. One of them was taking family, which was the higher one. And the other one was budgeted. I think they were taking family. We weren't sure they were going to take insurance. So this year, we know both employees have not taken insurance. The only thing I caution is you don't want to be hiring employees based on if they do or do not take
Yeah,
insurance.
no,
True.
that's true.
So
I
if we
agree
give
with
this
that.
extra money to them when they come back during the year and we change, the county needs to give them
We
money.
need to be able to
Historically,
do
what's
it.
happened, and it is when a department ends up short on the health, we ask them to try to cover it out of the budget. If they can't, we have a line item we ask the county commission to cover it out of. Because you don't want to discriminatorily being hiring and firing people based on health insurance.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So that would be a big caution if you do give them six because of this savings.
Yeah,
But it's
that's-
really
that's
going
a-
up, it's just the health dropped out that we cover.
Bottom line is, we should not assume it.
You shouldn't
We should
assume
not
that. so
assume
this-
it.
We are usually asked to keep some amount of money in,
Yeah.
but either way, I mean,
Okay.
the part-time person, if approved, wouldn't be eligible for health insurance. If down the road we get that converted over to full-time, particularly working with drug court and some of the opioid stuff. It's a growth opportunity, we think, for providing better wraparound services to the court system. We've already started piloting some of that. We can readdress that at a later date, but, you know, if we did do something with the opioid money, we'd probably ask for that health insurance to be funded from the grant.
Got it.
And I know, and I apologize, I'm sure you went through this, but the part-time person, what would they be doing? What do you need them for?
Just capacity. I mean, I can show you a great deal of numbers of where our ratio of veterans to service officers in our county is about double what every one of our neighboring counties is. And as a result, we're not actually getting out and helping out, getting all the veterans that we need. So we're very efficient operation, but we're just underserving our population. So we're adding capacity so we can reach out and touch more vets.
Appreciate it.
And that will have a direct impact. I mean, I can show the correlations and the numbers, we can show the graphs, but I think it was in the, I can't remember, we did the comparison with Rutherford County, but there's a level of effort match with the amount of dollars that we get back per veteran. So right now, the fiscal year 21, we were under $10,000 per veteran. We're up to about $12,000 per veteran, but every single one of the other counties is running $20,000, $30,000 per veteran. There's money coming back from the VA directly into the pockets of Sumner County folks. And a lot of times they're going directly into the businesses. Like I was over at an assisted living facility in Mr. Shope's district this morning with a woman whose husband had died from a service-connected disability. And we're gonna be able to get her probably $1,900 a month that she's gonna use to pay rent and stay here in Sumner County, because otherwise she might not be able to afford it. So that money comes right back in to our businesses and to our coffers, just indirectly through some tax form. But we can increase that intake too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your next one's Health Department, and Kyle's back there, he's on page 64 and 65, in your budget, and 105 in your agenda packet. And he has two things, one's called DGA, which is Direct Grant Access, which is the majority of his budget, which is on page, which is a direct flow through.
What did you say the page was in the budget? David?
It should be 64 and 65.
And then page 105.
And then 105 in your packet. We've got two big groups. The first one, if you look on page 64 and you go on to 65 to 317, 330, that is your local budget. Then page 65 going into 66, into 67, actually, not all these pages.
68.
No, they don't look right. I've got the
That's for me.
DGA. I was right on at the top of page 66. If you look at the top of page 66, the 1.742797, that comes back directly from the state. They want a paper I
Yeah, that's what I.
trying to find it. Shot on the budget's not that long, but so the one that's not a direct flow through is just the 317.3. Which
And where is that?
65.
That's the first part.
It's on page 65, the table is on page 64 and 5. And that's your local.
Oh, I see,
local
gotcha.
budget.
The rest is the state.
And I think right now, unless I'm looking on the salary, the only thing he's asked for is whatever the cost of living is for county employees.
It's all requested cost of living.
That's it. No change in any titles, no change in any personnel. All
And then
right.
he's not asked
Figure
for,
it all, make it happen.
and he's asked for no changes in the line items under the, operational in his, local either. And then on the DGA, usually the DGA, you'll do your budget, and then they'll come back and send an amendment here in the year if they fund in from more or less positions. So like you're seeing these positions here, they may decide not to fund one of these positions that are empty, or they may fund a new position in DGA. Correct. But they'll send you an amendment requesting that.
And I'm gonna bring, what's DGA?
DGA is the Direct Grant Access, it's a state grant.
Direct grant.
It's actually, it's a direct grant access, it goes through the state, it's federal and state money, and local.
So none of that's local, this section's not local?
Completely flow through.
Okay. I know his health insurance dropped on that one too, so I was curious,
But what happens on this one is usually during the year, you'll receive a contract from us that shows the flow through change and you have it this year. So we try to match it up later in the year. They may decide to add a position or
So we got, already got a correction or an addition to that.
but we usually run with what he has at the end of the amendment plus the cost of living and then we do it during the year because it keeps floating until after the budget's done. It's just a logistical issue. You can't really write it down very well.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Judicial commissioners is next, but I don't see.
Saw them walk in, I don't know if they're in the wrong room or.
We're 10 minutes ahead.
We are 10 minutes ahead. We can do it. We can,
Dollar General edition.
Yeah, if we can go ahead and do circuit.
You wanna go ahead and do it? She's in my.
Yeah.
She heard me.
I'm going, somebody's here. Let's do it. Somebody's here, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
She's on page 51 for her budget and 106 in the packet.
Circuit 51, page 51.
So other than the cost of living on her salaries, the only things in there is $15,256 for a change to what I guess is a supervisor.
Killing a lot of trees, eh?
Yeah,
What page?
and that can actually,
51.
that could actually be quite a bit less, and I think I could actually do it within the cost of living amount, depending on what you guys end up approving. So I did it from the lowest position, but in looking back through it, I was in the middle of the file. Sequestration issues when we did this, so I did it kind of quickly. I mean, essentially, when we move into the new courthouse, that position is going away. And what it will be replaced with is a higher level position, but not a supervisor
Sorry,
position.
I think we were on some wrong pages. What page was that?
43 on the
It's
budget.
43,
Yes.
for some reason, 43, got it, sorry. I'm so sorry.
he said 51.
Yeah,
Oh, I
Let it slide.
Yeah, you-
I said judicial commissioners number.
so,
I
but,
read you judicial commissioners number, then we.
yeah, that's right, but we're on page 107 here for salary, which is correct, right?
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I gave it the wrong department.
I mean, basically, I need a new supervisor position, and I want that starting salary to be $50,000. So that could actually, I mean, I could raise another higher level. Most likely, it's gonna be one of my higher level paid people that gets moved into that position anyway. And then I can fix this within what I already have with my cost of living. Raise where I'm asking for 6%. I mean, as you all know, the cost of living everywhere has increased substantially, especially for most of my employees. Especially if healthcare costs are going up.
I think this year's 1% of request.
So 1%?
1% on your, which on 1% on your health. If it's
Oh, for the health.
For $200 a month, so that would be $2.
Yeah.
$2 a pay period.
So, so
Anyways.
is what you're suggesting then so you need a new, manager position?
Well, it's not a new position. I want to take one of my positions
That's
I
what I
already
was-
have
and
and
change
make
it.
it a
Where is
supervisor
that?
position.
So-
So I need a $50,000.
So
So I
is-
could actually take the 45,000 and make it a 50,000.
So what?
So that could be 5,000 instead of 15,000.
So is the one that is the
Yeah.
one that you've changed here, the clerical change to supervisor? And make a change in that from 34 to 52?
Well, that's the position I have is very.
Not following.
Tell us where this is.
Yeah, we're trying to figure
We
this.
can't see it.
It's right here.
It's right there, it's 15,000.
It's that one.
It's right
It is
there.
that one.
Okay, it is that
It is that
Okay,
one.
that's when we were wondering.
Right there.
I'm saying you want to
Like
take
where?
a position around
Where is it?
50%
Or
of
52,
the-
yeah, I guess I put 52 in there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure we were looking at the right one.
What, yeah, yes, like, let's take the high,
There it
whatever
is.
the highest, not my
This
already
guy.
supervisors,
I'm looking over here.
but another deputy clerk position. We could take it from there and make that the 52,085.
So what-
Does that make sense?
What's, if you don't mind me pressing a little bit?
Yes.
I promise I'm doing it to everybody.
Go ahead.
What is this person gonna be doing differently?
So they're gonna be supervising people. They're gonna be, so when we move to the new building, I am shifting, I mean, all my people are gonna be in one place. So I'm going to have a cost collection department. So everybody who is paying fees and fines and who is in charge of the collection, like right now, I've got somebody in circuit that does collection, I got somebody in general sessions that does collection, and collection have increased our fees substantially.
So you're taking all of those and
So
you're
all
moving
of
them in
those,
one
and they will
spot.
be in kind of their own little hub in order to kind of take that away from the general operation, day-to-day processing of the fees. So I would like to have an individual that is over those employees, but it's only a couple of employees. I'll only have like 3 people in that department. So it'll be the supervisor plus 2 other employees. So that's why that supervisor position will make less than.
Is that supervisor also gonna be like also taking collections?
Yes,
So they'll be
yes.
doing like
Yes.
Like a work.
player coach.
But they will also be over, my office is not on Kronos, I have no idea why, but.
We haven't had enough stuff to get there yet.
I've been asking for years to
That's
go on
something we're
it,
gonna discuss.
so I have to manually keep track of all my vacation, all sick leave, all of that stuff, and so that's one of the duties that.
So they're doing some like
We've got
administrative.
60% of the county on there. We're trying to get to everybody else. The problem we've got is we're doing our day-to-day, and for no more staffing, we've been trying to implement all this software, and last year we ran $18,000 of overtime, and like everybody else, I'm having retention issues. So I've got people that if I work them any more hours, are probably gonna quit. They're very, whatever it is. So this person's probably gonna walk out 2 or 3 other ones, and we're gonna have issues even worse. So that's kind of why we haven't got the captain to be trying to get there, but we've actually got Sheriff EMS and some of these haven't gotten to her. And we have you on the top of the list, we've been trying to jump in front of you. There's like, what,
For
3
years,
departments?
so for 30 employees, I mean, on a weekly basis, I have to manually check manual
we're trying
time
to get there.
sheets. We keep a spreadsheet of all the time off, that's some of the stuff the supervisors do. They help manage the days off, the vacation leave, sick leave, and just the general operation of the office.
We're hoping to pick her up at the end of this coming.
So the bump on this would be your collection people, one of those, when we consolidate in one building.
She said about $4,500 right now.
Look, hold on a second. So one of those, how many are there at? 4 collection people?
So I don't have anybody in juvenile. I have 2. I have 1 person that does collections for circuit and 1 person that does collections for general sessions.
2.
Essentially, I mean, I've got,
But so one of those 2 will be sort of elevated and get a $5,000 raise with and then would supervise the other one?
so so this position is a runner position. It's the lowest level position I have. It's a clerical position. He's my runner.
Okay.
I will not need a runner when I have all building. So that position is gonna change over. Now, he's full-time, and so he does some clerical stuff. But that is gonna shift to a full-time deputy clerk position that is in the cost collection department. So I'll have 3 people total, including the supervisor, in the cost collection department.
So there's a working supervisor and 2
Correct.
And that position, I'm not saying the person, but that position goes away.
So,
This runner.
The runner position.
well, it will be,
Because it is.
it will become a deputy
That's what I'm
clerk
saying,
1
like,
position.
you increase one of those deputy clerks, that one,
That's
that
right.
disappears.
And I'll increase this to kind of what my minimum is, like, I mean, you can see on the other ones, this is lower than what my other kind of
So I
minimum.
guess what we're getting at is,
So we're adding 1.
are we adding a person or?
No.
We're not
No.
adding a head
She's
count.
going to change this one to
I'm not
be
adding anybody.
equivalent to that one, this one to be equivalent to that one.
Yeah.
And then she's wanting to take this one and add about $4,300 to it and make it just randomly, she's wanting to 52.5 basically, that's what so she's wanting about looks like about $9,000. So it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Unless I'm
Might
looking
not
at it
even be
wrong.
that, it might not even be that much.
Between these 2, what is that about? 38, 9, where's on, where's we got it right? So it's a little bit, about $40-some hundred there, and then about 40-some hundred, so about 80-some hundred.
Well, I don't need anything to make this
Oh, you don't need, you want?
that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I would.
I can do
it's
that
okay.
online. I know.
Yeah.
So you just need $4,500, is what you're
I-
saying.
That's what I'm saying, like, I did
Because
this.
the way the rest of these were done, it was like those would have been kind of zeroed out, and then you'd have had a new one up there, but that's okay, I get it now.
Well, if they were quitting and becoming,
Yeah.
somebody quits, this is the same person though, yeah. But I think what she's saying, she needs $4,500 to make one of those 48,006s to about 52,500.
To 52, right.
So she's one
Yeah.
I want this to go from that to 52.
And
And I
then
just,
that
I
one's
did it
zero,
quick,
yeah.
say, hey, this position's changing, I need to make this supervisor position. And then when the trial continued and I got to think about it more deeply, I was like, wait a second, I could do
Is
this.
that what you're saying?
When does that trial
Yes.
take place?
Yes.
What's going on?
There we go.
So the runner will still be getting the same pay, but just doing different responsibilities?
No, but I don't need any additional money to be able to, I don't need any additional money to fix that.
That's, you're assuming that everybody's getting a 6% cost. So if they decrease the 6%.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. That's why I was asking, you mentioned that earlier, within the 6%.
No, I mean,
Oh.
so I just had somebody who'd been here for a long time retire.
Okay, I got you.
So I brought somebody in, so I've got a little bit of play on that I can add to that myself without having to
So she's gonna use the attrition.
ask for more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the pieces.
Did I make that as confusing as possible?
You-
So
yes,
that you
yes,
all
did.
just say, sure.
Did you happen to bring any Advil?
It's my mind game that I play.
Listen, you also got, you drew the afternoon card. We're all
Somebody.
So.
Make sure we can already capture your attrition.
They put on.
Hang on, Jerry.
It happened. Done.
I just want to know, make sure we're not going to, the money we approved for the trial didn't happen. We're not going to approve more money for
Yeah.
that.
Trial, yeah, no kidding.
I think it's a serious question now.
And that's it. So on my regular budget, I have reduced some funds that,
This trial, yeah.
like our copying stuff is gonna go down because we're gonna be able to have less copiers. Anything like that I could reduce, I reduced. I had,
So there is one big expense, go ahead,
go ahead.
Mr. Mansfield.
Well, so the trial got delayed, and we
Uh-huh.
approved a lot of money for that. So where's that money? And I assume it's being saved. You haven't spent anything of that, right? Or-
So,
That's why I'm
Did we have to,
asking.
because we had to put those people into, we had to put those people into hotels, right?
well,
That
so
was-
not much has been spent, but we did have expenses
Couple
involved with
$100,000 that
us
we-
going to Knoxville. I had already booked a charter bus to bring the jury back here that I had to cancel 2 days before. So they were gracious enough to, while they should have kept the entire amount, and I would not have blamed them for that at all, they were gracious enough to keep the $250 deposit and they refunded the rest of the money. So there are some stuff like that just do, I
But
mean,
the maj-
literally I found out Saturday night.
But the majority of that
Majority of it's still sitting there.
is
Okay, we're
fine.
showing it spent,
Okay.
based on how much she's gonna spend, so we'll have to get that from her.
That's why I was.
Yeah.
But the other question is, I think the bigger question is it gonna come back next year, we need to put something over there?
Yes, it's
So
scheduled
we
for
need to-
January.
So we probably need to decrease this and put some money back over here. So we probably need to, in other words, we know have you already paid everything you're gonna pay on the trial? Or is there some stuff?
No, I think everything, yeah, I think
So if everything's out, then what we need to do tomorrow is pull it out in unison, see what's actually been paid, put that there. And
Put, yeah, put what's
up.
up, put what left.
And it'll
what is
net
left
out, and
there.
then during the year, she ends up being short, you go back
Yep.
in.
Could
I ask a
I
question?
think it'll be fine.
Did I understand you say it's been postponed until January?
Correct.
Which could increase your cost if you have, because of inclement weather, you've got a house that you can't get near.
And inflation and a recession.
You never know, so.
Well, I mean, we can haggle over that one, that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any other questions on her specific, but that was an important one.
Yeah, that is,
Probably
that
had
is.
them over there, probably there.
No, I'm good, I'm good.
They had the people in town.
Any other questions?
So we need to just, you guys need to do the same thing.
The sheriff.
Department.
Yeah.
We showed it all spent, not because the sheriff probably had some costs because they probably were down there for a few days before it got or whatever.
Yeah, theirs will be super minimum.
Good.
And
Same thing is
I
all
haven't
right.
spent that much from it. Hopefully,
We'll
hopefully
see.
all that money can go back and we don't have to do any of it. I'm still holding out hope for that.
How would that be possible? Trial go somewhere else?
No. Just,
Oh, Oh, gotcha, yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Just as a reminder, I'm gonna have to leave it there.
That's fine. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
I know.
Bailou's.
He's not coming tomorrow till noon.
Yeah.
What? Daughter graduating.
Oh, come on. Priorities lacking. Come on.
Any other questions? I'm trying to get it going here. I'm losing control.
Yeah. We need to
All right,
rank
hey,
this.
all right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
right,
Okay, judicial commissioners.
We can do a debit card system.
All right.
No, but it
All
doesn't.
right, Kathy.
Mr. Draper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very
I
much.
jumped ahead of you. You want
Yes.
to?
Mr. Draper is on page,
Page 51?
I guess he's
It's
on
just like
page
school
51
kids.
and 106.
It's just like
Y'all
school
read
kids.
51 and didn't read the next.
51.
Get close to get let out of school.
51.
Who are we talking about?
This is the judicial commissioners.
What page? 51?
51 in the budget and 106 in the packet.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
Get the floor.
Hey, I think there may be one correction that needs to be made on part-time personnel. The copy I've got is correct, but I think it currently reads 51-2, that should be 31-2.
Where's
Does
this?
it read 51-2 on your copy?
31-2.
Part-time,
Reach 33,
okay, that was the six, okay,
Yeah.
okay. We
31.
found a copy today that still said the 31-2 was 51-2, so I thought it may still be over here, but. Okay, we did not ask for any increases other than, I think, the 6% that we were asked to put in just for submitting the budget. So we didn't have any changes or increases to our budget for the next fiscal year.
No, I understand.
It's killing it.
Just for the record here, Mr. Long, what was the rationale for putting in 6% across the board?
It was what the Elected Officials Association voted to request.
There you
And
go.
when I talked to him, the concern was turnover of employees and because the inflation is running.
I think Mr. Becker's, he's twitching every time it.
Well,
6%.
it's
No, I was curious, because
Inflation
if we
will-
gave a recommendation of 2%, 2 to 3%, I was just curious how everyone's coming in here at 6.
They already recommended it before you guys did. and-
Yeah.
And their rationale when I talked to them was because inflation's about 8% and they're having difficulties retaining employees. And they understood it may not happen, but they said they still, in good conscience, wanted to ask because inflation was high. So they still losing employees.
Taxpayers capturing court.
But that was the rationale I received. And I think Mr. Isbell, he's a member of the association, unless he.
So we can blame John.
That's what I was told by the association.
All my fault.
The same thing the employees.
What's one more thing?
Are you
Hold
good?
on.
It's actually Anthony's fault.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, sorry about that.
That does help explain it, thank you.
Yeah.
'Cause
It was because of the strong
They all
inflation.
just, okay, we all just get together.
He's president of the association, so still blaming
I think Cindy Williams is actually the president. Do you want us to call her down there?
No, let's go.
Let's keep going. Sorry about that.
him. We kept hearing that in the presidential.
So the 6%, cost of living, is there anything else you want to highlight here?
No, everything
That's
should be
it.
exactly the same from the
All right.
last budget.
All right.
Any questions for the judicial commissioners, not adding anything? No, okay.
I'm sorry, I do have a
Go ahead.
question. It's not really for him, because,
Now you're
but
breaking the rule.
I'm curious about, and maybe we've talked about it here a lot, but like, the health insurance is dropping $20,000.
Yeah. This is what you run into. The health insurance this year was, because COVID's kicked it up, it's only a 1% increase. The health insurance in this budget is based on the current selections by the employees. So if you look, the single policy is the cheapest, employee plus one's more expensive than family. So a couple of things happened during the year, this year more than average. We had several people that actually dropped health insurance completely because their spouse got it or whoever. And then several people actually, say for instance, all their children were not, their child was no longer eligible, so when you move from family to employee plus, or you hire new employees, they may be similar.
What's the average for Sumner County for a salary plus benefits? Is like 30%, 35%? Like, you
It
take,
varies based on each one.
what would you say is an average, like 35%?
Well, let me give you the parts, it's the easiest way. If it's full part or whatever, It's,
So full.
0.62% even part-time for Social Security Medicare, 0.0765. Your retirement's 11.28% automatically. If you are a full-time employee, we cover life insurance up to $100,000 of your salary, and that's very minimum. It usually averages $62, $63. The biggest is $101 for an employee. And then the next thing you got is health, and there's three versions. Single is $8,077. Employee plus one is $16,479, and family is $20,273. And then your dental has three rates: $239.
Where's that?
They're down here. I'm just reading some.
Okay, you're just looking at average.
Yeah, there's three different ones. You just have to choose one of the three different variants. There's only three variants.
I was just,
And I'm going through them quickly, but
when I'm just talking average, like typically when you do salary, it's
if you take
salary
somebody
plus
like
30% is an
right,
average
if you take somebody,
business.
right, but if you take somebody in the library, they say they're the new bottom starting person, and they take a family policy, they can have 80% benefits. But if you take somebody that's a director of a department and they only take single, you'd probably be down to what? 22, 23, 24%. So
Okay,
it's
so-
according to what it's very great.
That's a pretty big spread, 80%.
Right. But it's that way.
Well, I was noticing on some of the salaries, like some of the benefits are almost like equal to the salary.
It's based on the health insurance.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's one reason, to be honest, that's one reason.
That's why
if you
people
look
work
at
for the county.
salaries, well, there's a lot of salaries here that are,
It is.
there's a lot of salaries that are below market,
But the benefits, well, that's,
So for the benefits, it goes.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about, you
why
want
when
more
you
money in
look-
your bank, but like.
Yeah.
Well, that's why when you look at
Yes, they don't
everybody's,
realize that.
that's why when you look at
That's
the,
a
before we look
huge
at the
thing
far
for all
right,
counties.
That's what I'm getting at.
if you look at the total on the far right, it will show the all-in cost for any position,
Yeah.
based on the current occupant. So if you go to,
See, that's the thing that people talk about, like, they talk about cash in their pocket, they don't realize how much cash they do have in their pocket because of
just click on
benefits.
magistrates, it'll be fine.
I mean, because I gotta pay a
If
lot.
you look at Todd, where's Todd?
Out of pocket.
Not to say about he's here. If you look at Todd, he's 95 right now for his gross, but if you say you gave him the 6%, it'd be 108.59. Because all in's 138.371.
Yeah, so 30% difference.
So we show him, but you gotta think if that was, he was say, a entry-level librarian making 30,000 a year, that
Right.
percentage would be much different.
Yeah, that's
because-
right, because it's still costing, because health insurance is somewhat flat. I mean, we totally
And then
agree.
another thing we've got for health here is your families, we fund more into them, but they're actually, when I look at the actuarials, they're cheaper than your employee plus one because of demographics. Your employee plus one is usually one of two groups, somebody getting ready to have children or already have children, and that's where you're more expensive. So your families, on average, are usually your younger ones with children, so they're lower class. So your families, we fund a lot more in, because the way we fund it is, you got single, 8,077 double is employee plus one, and it's an odd percent, that's like 241% of a single is a family. But when you look at the claims, they all correspond to that. But when you take our actual census plus those, we add those back to the actuality
Yeah.
across. They do work, and one of the reasons we do it that way, we do account that your family is definitely not 3 times more on cost than your single, it's probably only like 130%. But your single may be $9,000.
I'm just, this is a question about my mind, it's not just because you're up here, so this is.
And we do
your
an
budget
actual,
question.
I do actuarials and calculations on the health, that's how I come up with how they work. And we've used the same percentage, I think there's some 39, before I got here, so we've used the same percentage.
So not to try to cut this, I mean, because it is important and to note it here, but like, I think this is a general.
Well, it was a
issue.
general question I asked, sorry, but I
No,
just.
that's okay.
It's because
When we
it
go
keeps
to the
coming
insurance
up,
fund,
but I mean, it was.
We'll go to the
it's-
health insurance fund tomorrow, and that's one we'll talk about.
Let's talk about that tomorrow.
So, any other questions here on for the judicial? Okay.
Try not to avoid your
Thank
answer,
you, sir.
so-
No, no.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
To 80%.
Toby Ellis.
We need to go down to 25.
Well, the 80 is close, 'cause I was looking at some of these, it was almost as much as the salary, I was like.
Well, if you do a 32-hour employee, it gets to be more, that's why you don't need to.
The estimated is only making like 30 something.
All
right.
There's like $27,000.
Mr. Ellis, go ahead. What pages are we supposed to be
So when
on?
Mr. Ellis is in his own firm, so he's on page, right here, everybody else know what you're saying.
I need a gavel.
He is on
I need a
page
gavel.
number, starting on 103.
Hold tight real quick. It's just hard to hear, folks, hard to hear. Do we need a break? We got a little bit of time. Do we need a break or can we keep on chugging?
Keep going. He's
All
on
right,
page,
let's keep chugging.
he's
What
on
page?
page 103 of your budget, and page 108 to 110 of your salary sheet. And let's go to the salary thing. Look, this is something I need to talk to Matt about, and me and Toby's been looking at it. Right now, when he did his count, he accidentally picked up, what, 2 extra positions?
What I did was,
Go
what I
ahead.
did was, back in October, I took 2 seasonal employees that were up to become full-time, and I made them full-time, and we did not plug them in the vacant spots. So what happened is, we come out having 2 extra spots, and we're not trying to add 2 extra spots. It was just a clerical error on our staff's part. So, not trying to add positions, I'm just trying to fill in. I'm trying to fill in the spots that we've had a few people leave, and when I added the seasonal, I didn't think about that, so we needed to take the full-time spots away. And so, as far as the addition of that, the way it looked, money was still okay, but it looked like I was trying to add 2 spots when in reality it wasn't.
So those are just seasonal spots, we're not making, are these?
That is administration?
He cut his seasonal, and then what he did, if you go with his salary change, look at the salary change, man. This is,
that on?
me and Toby, because Toby's made a lot of changes because he's needing more like laborers and truck drivers, and not to say anything negative about the former administration, but they didn't want to work with us well to keep these correct, so they would mislabel positions. That's what Toby determined they were calling laborers, truck drivers, for instance. He straightened all that up, so go down to the salary sheet, go down to the council, on the front salary sheet, not Toby's, this is the front. And this is what we looked at with Toby, and this is why when Toby started moving, he got confused and had the extra positions. This is all the positions this year and last year, he's made that many changes. When we started looking through them, it was a net 2 on the
So it's a
positive.
net 2?
Right, and if you go up, we can show you which 2 go up.
Okay.
In details.
Yes,
It's
sir.
these 2, it looks like these 2, it looks like those 2 truck drivers is what we think.
So we went from having, at the end of the day, ups and downs, ins and out, we netted 2 new truck drivers, full-time.
Well, what we've done, we're still at 59. It's just that there were spots for people that hadn't been filled yet, and when I added the people from seasonal to full-time, they didn't take the vacancies. We just left them there, they were still open.
He's not filling those. He's
Well, but I mean, but still, that's, the way, but those are still, in terms of your,
Budget-wise, he has 2 extra positions, but he's never filled them, so that's something we'll need to.
so like what you would call, Bob, like an MTO, he's got 2 new people.
Right, he's got 2 new budgeted
Right.
positions, but if you look at the changes in it.
I'm not saying in actuality you're spending it
Right,
differently, but
right.
in terms of like, because, we're also thinking about
Basically,
looking
at the end of the day,
forward.
I'm still going to have 59 this year.
Well, you got 59 human beings, but you got 61 slots.
Right.
So
Well,
you could go
But
and
we're
get,
gonna remove the 2 slots.
We can run, I'm saying we can remove it.
okay, so we can remove those.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
that's what we're trying to say, and we
Got it.
accidentally put it, but if you go up, and this is something that I mentioned to Toby, go up to that top sheet that shows changes in salaries, and it's hard to see why it's made it small. This is what I noticed on his overall dollars didn't go up, because I think he's eliminated some seasonal. Because if you look at that, that's 42, like, this is what he started out, all his salaries and benefits at the first of the year, or his gross salaries, okay? This is how much his gross salaries went down, and then if you get in here, this is this year, and this is his increase. So what we think's happened, when he took seasonal money out and put it over here and made a full-time position, what he probably needs to do is remove 2 full-times and put some seasonal money back in. Because we think he's gonna have issues next year because he's not gonna have any seasonal money.
Okay,
If that makes, if that's something like tomorrow that we can go through it with you guys and try to
okay.
get it right. But I think if we just flatly cut those positions and don't put it seasonal, he's actually gonna have less manpower than the former administration had.
All right.
That's what we were looking at. But
So
he did it for restructuring, why everything kind of got
We
out.
have more
The two
questions.
truck driver slots are gone.
But yeah, I think so. We gotta make sure he's, them or the equipment operator one, we gotta make sure which 2.
Okay, so we don't know yet.
It's one of those 2, we're gonna double check. We think it's a truck driver, we want him to double check.
Right.
And then what we think you need to do, Toby, unless I'm wrong, you need to add more money back into your season, because you're gonna be short on seasonal next year. And the only thing it really affects the benefit.
And that's a tough spot, to get seasonal people.
But can we go to the summary sheet? That's where they probably need to look at Toby's on the summary for the highway. That's what we discussed this morning, or whatever, every one of them, Toby was.
So now I'm confused again, and it's probably just me. So we had 2 seasonal employees. We changed those to being full-time employees.
Yeah, but I had about 6, 7 vacancies that were full-time.
Oh, the full-time vacancies.
That were full-time.
Right,
There
and you
was
just
nobody.
moved, no, I get it, you moved those into those.
Right.
And so, spaces versus faces.
Right,
You got faces over here.
yeah.
You took 2 faces from a seasonal space and
And
moved
full-time.
those to full-time, track it. I was under the impression that we were not adding any new, not faces, spaces.
We'll see.
Well, are we adding spaces or not?
I'm gonna take 2 of the vacant spaces away.
So you're gonna.
Full-time.
You're gonna take 2 of the full-time
Yes.
vacancies.
So it still leaves your 2 seasonal.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right, me and Toby started looking at this
Got
after
it.
we talked the other day.
Got
It's
it.
been real confusing, but I think once we're getting closer to being just right on track with each other from this point forward.
I got it.
It will never be
We
confusing.
went
Sorry, it was
back-
just me, I'm slow today.
We went back and physically counted it, so we know it's right. And then in Munis, he has 59 positions, so he can't go over on the control positions, we even know it. But when he requested this year's budget, he didn't subtract those 2 full-time positions out, he subtracted 2 seasonal dollars out, but not positions. So this budget request, he ended up with 2 more positions. Physically working, he's not over 2 positions, and he didn't mean to request the 2, he was counting the number he's actually working. Because we have a control in the payroll too, that would have said, hey, you're
Got it.
on your positions once it comes up to us. But that's how, and then Toby was looking, so we actually went by the physical count on them.
We do have one question from Mr. Hyde, who has not asked one yet.
Now, I'm wondering, that because a lot of our budgetary information has to do with control, and this is not at you, Toby, but where is personnel in this to control the slots, who's moving in them, who's moving out of them? Otherwise, anything could happen. You just choose to make this position that.
That's what happened in the
willy-nilly.
assessor's office.
How has the personnel been involved in this?
That's not the assessor's office, he was new, didn't understand it. We have a number of positions in Munis, it's called controls. In other words, when somebody quits, we open up a position, when somebody comes in and fills it, so we always know who you've got. The assessor sent up this paperwork, the new one, he didn't know where he had already hired those 2 people. So we get up there, we've got 2 people, so we want 1 of 2 choices, put them in temporary to let you guys deal with it, and it's not really an issue at this point. Or number 2, he needs to go lay somebody off, that's kind of where you end up with. But just like Toby's, he had not hired 59 people, so in air control positions, he's okay, he just made a request. But yeah, we have for Munis upstairs, our ERP software, like the sheriff's department, he has so many deputies, so when a deputy quits, they're terminated and a position comes open. So we know if there's overlapping positions. Where we end up with issues sometimes is like EMS. You have to have 1 paramedic on a ALS truck. You have to have 1 paramedic and 1 EMT. Paramedics are very hard to find, but we've got paramedics and EMT positions both budgeted. Occasionally, they'll want to come up and hire an additional paramedic, and we historically have let them do that because they're so hard to find, but it'll show a variance in Munis because they have an extra paramedic, but they're still open a bunch of EMTs, but we do watch them.
Right, but when I worked for the state of Tennessee and was assistant superintendent at TPS, and your dad would be very familiar with the personnel practices there, the control number was controlled by personnel. And if I wanted to do something like to take 2 part-time positions and change that to 1 full-time position, I'd go through personnel to abolish the 2 part-time and create a full-time. And that way, no one ever got out of control with the budget. You had the positions with the money, and it wasn't up to, how many supervisors do we have? We could be having all kinds of crazy things happening.
But the thing we've got is when you try to add them to payroll, you've got to have the position, but we end up with the ones like, think about the assessor, he goes and hires 2 people, they run them through HR. The time we get them up here, they're already working, we go, hey, you've got an extra person. So I called and told him, hey, you've got an extra person, you're not supposed to have that. His kind of response is the same thing, he's an example, we told you guys the total dollars aren't more, nobody took insurance. He's not violating his budget, so the thing is, I brought him back to you guys to look at it budget season. And just like I told you, his is right now not gonna be a problem unless somebody in the future takes
So
health insurance.
I think what Mr. Hyde's getting at though is, we need to reverse, and again, this is broader than this.
Cards before.
We need
All
to, yeah, we need to
finance
reverse
is that they
that.
have the position.
We need to, but we need to reverse that logic, right? Instead of having the person on, they go to a control point, change the personnel slots.
That would be
and
nice
then
to
they
do
bring
this
them on
first.
before it ever gets, so we don't have this problem.
Yeah, we
before
end
it
up
gets
with
to you.
other issues because we're always looking to make sure, for
This is
instance,
great.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
concerned people are working that don't have
You're right.
W-9s yet, so we're always in that issue, and I think it's something the commission may need to deal with, that they need
Yeah,
to come
hold
up
on a minute.
to finance
So,
first to verify they got
Just,
positions before they're
just,
hired.
this is, Mr. Becker's correct here.
Also, I can explain
We're,
one thing.
well, hold tight real quick. We're just trying to get, this is important, and I think we need to discuss it, but you've got a couple other items on your budget that we've talked through, and we got 6 minutes to get through it to stay on track. So I would like to focus on, we just went through personnel. I think we've got a good handle on what you're trying to do here. I'd like to talk about capital expenditures and some of the options that we talked through and the three of us discussed.
So let's just go to the summary on the highway deployment.
Sorry to cut that off, Mr. Remick.
Toby has $737,873 that are negative. According to the comptroller's office, that should be about $750, at least 1/12 positive. I say you at least need that much for a couple of reasons. One, this number right here is highly dependent upon my revenue estimates that I have talked to Toby about. We think they're good, and what we think Toby's gonna spend. If he spends more because he's got good weather, or something happens to revenue, this will be less. Same thing, our budgeted revenues, up here's also estimates, so you need to have at least $750,000. Go back.
So we've got a net of 1.5 million that we need to
Yes.
change. You got a net overage of 1.5 million that we gotta figure out. That's the problem we gotta figure out here. And we talked through some options for it if you guys wanna go.
And
through
I can
those.
talk about a couple of the options that they talked about and kind of see if I can go about it lightly. And make sure I'm not wrong, Toby, this budget's built somewhere around 50 to 52 miles. I think you said 52 or 50, I can't recall. 50 miles. If we go to appropriations, go to the asphalt lines. We'll show you where most of the increases and what the, are we there? Where's the asphalt? Go on down one, there's two of them. Go down, okay. This asphalt line here is the one that is funded locally, 100% wheel tax, property tax, gas tax.
Yeah.
This one's called state aid. Next year, my understanding from Toby is the state aid is a 98% match, which means
2021.
they pay 98% of the asphalt. Kind of a couple ways to balance this is, number one, you could go in here and cut $1.5 million out of his asphalt and it would balance it, but that's gonna bring him down to 40 miles. Number two.
Now, to be clear here,
What have we been
we've
doing?
been doing about between, 36 and 40 miles.
And the issue being is you're getting behind.
This number right here, if we matched that number, it would be $700,000 more this year. So part of this, I know y'all are looking at, wow, that's a lot of money he added to it, but we're almost $18 a ton.
But there's two things going on here I want to make clear, that was clear to me when we were talking through this. One is you are indeed trying to add total miles done.
Yeah.
Additionally, you're talking about a 35% year-over-year increase in mix. So between those two things happening,
$3 million.
you've got that difference.
1.5 million.
1.5
Well,
million.
we're down.
Right.
So we gotta come
Yes.
up a minute.
But here's a couple of solutions. This is the first one. If you, that first one's a possibility of a decrease basically 10 miles. The next one is you can do this, go into revenues and see the state aid revenue,
Half and half.
where's it at?
That's what I was recommending.
You can increase it. Where's the state aid revenue? Did you see, is that it, Bethany? Okay, that's state aid. You can increase it $500,000, come over here and decrease the local asphalt by 500,000.
Yep.
And then increase this by 500,000 times 0.98%, because it's 98%. That's going to do, the first thing, it's gonna fix 500,000. The additional, to keep the same amount, you can come in here and minus another $1 million off this asphalt and fund an additional $1 million over in ARPA. That would get you your 15 miles. That's the number one option.
So the 98%,
They reimburse you for 98%. 2% has to be locally funded.
State.
So that's the 98%, 2%.
it's not, okay, so it's not a 98% match, they reimburse.
They reimburse.
Isn't an infusion come from the state for the highway for this year? I mean,
We're about to do
That's a
another.
big state aid money, that's what we're talking about.
We're gonna, yeah.
We're like 14 million, or what was it?
We're getting our share over the next several years is like 5.2 million.
A year or just in total?
So that's over, it'll take me probably 3-4 years.
But it's 5.1 million total,
Total.
that Sumner, you're getting?
Total, what we're saying.
So what, and that's going to.
That's what I'm saying I would like to do next year.
With that money?
With that money.
But
That-
here's the thing you gotta think about, state aid can only be used to connect two state aid roads or a road connected to a state aid road.
Right.
So all your very rural counties have to come from.
So we can't just dump
There.
all state
No,
stuff in there,
I
else
mean,
the rural.
most of our
wouldn't
county
get any
roads,
help.
like if you've got 100% county roads, probably 15+% is state aid roads.
Now, here's another option that you may wanna do if you can find enough in ARPA, the way you can allow more of that. You can allow more local this year and allow more of that state aid to be used for those state aid roads in the future. If you can find it, you can come and cut this by 1.5, leave state aid alone, and put 1.5 over in ARPA.
But the money coming from the state, is that state aid or is that just straight up, they're just
That's-
giving you money?
that's
not
state aid.
Okay, that, it's limited to state aid, I wasn't.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's my understanding, put state aid
It's
roads.
just gotta be on state aid roads.
So,
That, where your, so really your rural roads, which I think you told me is like 80% of your roads, is that correct?
So you
So
can't
80% of your
use it
roads
for-
can't be used for that.
See, I thought they could, that's what.
I got it.
I would
Well,
love
a
to
couple
use
more
that.
questions here, and then we gotta move on, but I do wanna get this one, go ahead.
So, on the bottom line, the 750, why do we have to have a positive 750? What was the rule again?
State has to have a.
Well, it's not state law, but here's for good financial management. They're recommending, and I said it needs to be more, you should have at least 1/12 of your expenditures about 750. It's negative 740.
We got a letter from them.
The reason you're gonna need that, come back over here.
Okay,
Roll up here,
okay,
Bill.
so,
This number here, go back, I'll start. This is the last number we know with any positive
I
certainty.
got you.
Through the rest of the year, these are all estimates. These are estimates based on his expenditures. These are all estimates, and these are appropriations that come to that number. So if there's a huge variance, say Toby does a lot more work because of the really good, really good seasonal, he may spend closer to this full 10 that's budgeted here versus that 8.
So my question, and I'm not suggesting we do this, but if we wiped out all of that state aid, then we get us where we want to be?
The problem you're probably gonna end up with is you won't be able to work on a lot of your rural roads.
It has to touch. If
You're only gonna
do
touch
that, you have to
20%.
touch. It's either a state road or a road that touches a state road.
No, to me, it doesn't make sense that we could wipe out the state aid and then meet our
Well, what they're
objective.
saying, is just shifting that down.
We got 3 pots. We got our recurring funds, which would change maintenance effort. We've got the state aid, which is limited to roads that touch state roads, and then we got ARPA, which we can use, which is one time, but we can use it anywhere. We're trying to figure out, the trick here is to figure out how to come up with 1.5 million extra from one of these 2 pots, so that we don't increase this pot.
And what's this part?
This pot is.
I've got longer to spend state aid money than I do.
And let's talk about
So
maintenance.
that 1.4 is not including this calculation?
Talking about the state aid.
Yeah, what's in there is already included in this calculation. We're talking about.
All right, that's fine. It doesn't make sense to me how that is tied to the 750 good practices.
The 750 has to just be
You're in
that's the
balance.
total,
No, I
that's the
know.
total budget.
I understand.
So we gotta change your expenditure
So
for
we
something by
took 0
1.5
state
to make
aid,
it
would be
750.
okay.
But one thing, make sure everybody understands what maintenance of effort is for the highway department.
That's what I'm saying, it's just, my brain's not seeing that. Okay.
Yeah, but then what you're doing is you're decreasing your total number of roads, right? Then you're
I
going
understand that.
like 32 miles.
If it was local, it makes sense. State aid
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
make sense to me.
I get it. Now I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So state aid, it's just as a road that's touching a state road.
So
It's not like
just to, because we need to move on, but I do
Well,
want
there's two, we
to,
need to look at this capital.
well, so let's do that, but I do want to just summarize this real quick when we talk about it, just keep it in your mind. We've got $1.5 million we got to burn down. Here are the variables we can play with. Total number of miles, does it come from state, does it come from ARPA?
Yep.
And those are the 3 things we can adjust up and down, and then that's how we'll figure this
And
out.
let's talk about the MOE for how we make sure you understand it completely. The MOE is based on the highway's 5-year average in the last 5 years' revenue. So you're gonna be above that, you're fine on your 5-year average. What affects that is local revenues. It's not affected by state money, the state aid, ARPA money, or even debt money. So if you were given debt money, it would not affect it.
Right.
Then one thing, let's go to the capital projects and let's explain what's in there and where that money came from. It's been there for a couple of years. We'll go show it. Back at the last tax study, they raised 1 penny for the highway for capital projects on what this is made of. This is 1 penny minus the trustees commission. And they use it every year to buy their equipment. The reason it was put here instead of the highway fund, it's not a maintenance of effort issue. They wanted to make sure it was used solely for equipment because it was promised when they raised the taxes in my presentation that I did for everybody, said it was for equipment, so everybody wanted to guarantee it was used what it was said for, which is exactly equipment if you stick it over here. So that's the purpose of it being over here.
Got it.
If you guys see test, it will not count toward your maintenance of effort, but I have concerns about that because the law is based on the last gas tax increase and it says local maintenance of effort.
Yeah.
Well, this is property taxes, so technically by putting in another fund, I think you're just bypassing a law, and I think it still would count. I disagree with C-Test on that, but anybody else?
Any other questions for, and that's an important point, I'm glad we brought it up, because I know you and I talked about it.
And that's the reason it's over here to make sure a promise is made.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Go ahead.
No, I think I figured out my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Yes, there's a mention of revenue to expense, so it's a lot.
General session 2 is on page 3.
It's just for the county.
What pages are we on?
We're on page 25 on the budget, and 108 on salaries.
45 and what?
108 on your agenda, and page 45.
45? Yeah, no, that's general sessions 1.
Should be 44.
I'm sorry, 111.
44 and 111.
Yeah.
It's double.
Mr.
Really
McCormick,
quick.
fire away.
All right, so
Just
I've got.
start yelling, take
I've
over.
got a dance routine and all of that planned as well.
Awesome, Toby.
But,
True.
I'm gonna need Judge Howard to help me with that one.
Go ahead.
Okay, so essentially, I presented my budget. I only requested a few nominal changes, one of which was to supplies, travel, and dues.
44.
Essentially, it still doesn't equal out to Division 1's budget. And I wasn't trying to equal it exactly, but at least get really close to it. Division 1 and Division 2, Division 3, I'm Division 3, the only difference in Division 3 and Division 1 are the last names of the people we service. We do the exact same job. So in this situation, I have the back half of the alphabet, so everybody imagine that you're here at this table. Anyone whose last name starts with L and N through Z, you are in my court. Anyone A through K is in Judge Blanton's court. So ultimately, I asked to mirror his supply budget, his, some of his other fees and some of those budgets to get pretty close to his, because I found out through Judge Carter's spouse that he was offsetting and paying out of his pocket to make his court operate. So ultimately, I only asked for certain fees to equal Division 1's budget, which were very nominal. I asked for the cost of living increase for my staff as well of 6%, as already been discussed. And then I submitted the AOC's request for my own, based upon what the AOC sent us. So that's essentially it. Dues and membership is what I asked for the increase for. I asked for travel. I asked for printing and stationery and forms. I asked for supplies and periodicals, all consistent with Division 1 and all consistent with the increase in those supplies in general.
So a total difference, $15,000.
Increase, yeah.
Or total, yeah, difference, increase.
I was comparing to 1 and 3.
Oh.
So 10,000.
$10,000 difference.
Yeah, and those two.
So pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think, nothing here jumps out at me. Any questions? No questions? All right. That was the quickest of the day. Thank you, ma'am.
We don't have time for the dance?
No, we got it. We caught, you caught us up.
We're on time.
Now we're on time. We're 2 minutes ahead. Ag extension.
Ag extension is on page number 75. And in your
112.
document, on page 112. Oh, it's
Very high.
Need the air on.
Now, ag Extension's budget is quite confusing. We actually have one county employee, which is the person that's on the bottom here, and the rest of it's UT matching that we pay with an invoice, and then part of your other lines are paid directly to UT, and part of them are paid directly.
And I have the percentages too, if you guys want to see what percentage is county paid and what percentage is, so you know the percentage county's paying, if y'all need that.
They're also based on 6%.
Yes, so the request was, we did request a 6% for the cost of living. You will see there is an additional for agents that have been there, have been in the office longer than 12 months at the time that this was submitted. That was because last year Ag Extension received no cost of living raise, so I did ask for that for those employees. You will also see Leanne Faust as a program assistant. She's been at our office now several years. She's making barely above what minimum starting salary is. And so I'm asking for a merit increase for her because with the time she's put in and the work that she does, it's been very much so.
Last year, they didn't receive the cost of living because the department submitted the budget, I think, 2 years later, or it wasn't usually the formal one. So that's the whole story behind it, why they didn't get cost of living last year for the UT. Now, the actual salary for the program assistant was adjusted for cost of living last year and was adjusted for the salary.
Correct.
They did receive both the local and county.
So I guess I'm just a little confused here, and the 80, because it's, for most of them, I'm able to kind of tease this out, because I have everything broken out with the health in it. So I'm looking at line 1, the admin extension agents, the 81,000, which I'm assuming that's everybody. Does that include all your employees?
Here's the problem we've got with this one. The bottom is county employees. This top,
You said the bottom one.
the bottom line, right, okay, let's hold this up. This bottom.
It's not looking at
Okay.
this though. He's
Let's-
looking at other.
But I mean,
But I'm trying to collate these.
This right here
Okay.
is your county people. This is all paid on an invoice to UT. That's why that's all.
So just the program assistant, that's the one county person.
And then you go down to this line item, you'll find
Then why are we coming up $81,000 different when I go to page 75?
$81,000 difference.
On the budget.
Because it says admin extension agents, $81,000. But then I come over here and I don't see anything like
Why don't
that.
you go back over there and I'll show you. Go back to this. Go back here. This is 344. That's what it was last year. This is all those mid-year adjustments because there was no cost of living brought you to 304. They're asking for cost of living of 12 and 27, so you can add that, and that, from there to there comes your other.
But I thought you said those weren't county employees.
They're over here in their salary line items, even though they're billed to UT. In other words, they're not county employees, but they run through salary line items they always have to UT.
And we
We pay
pay
percentages, we pay them a percentage. We pay a percentage of their, of everything. Historically, we didn't pay any on their health, but I think that was a change UT made a couple of years back.
I don't know, that was way before I got with you.
And it has been kind of an issue with the county because they changed the funding rule on us. There's varying percentages with UT from different counties, and at the same time, you
So
still
is
have
that-
to us and change the funding by changing.
So is that 81, because this, I can't figure it out here, is the 81,000?
It's basically the percentage of what we pay.
Well, yeah, no, but like, where could I trace this on this previous, like you can't see it, it's just like a,
It's very hard because they pay with an invoice. That's what the thing is, UT kind of determines the salaries and sends that to us.
Were you
So-
looking at it on salaries?
I'm just looking, so what I have been trying to do with everybody is I look on the budget, which is kind of a roll-up, and then I see, I check this against the individual salaries, and most of the time they add up or very close. Here, I've got when I look at them all rolled up, I see admin extension agents, $81,000 difference. I know that there's only one employee, which is, I'm guessing you, but we have all these other folks, so where does that 81,000 come from?
Well, here, David, I'll show you what he's looking at here, I think. So see, that number didn't get changed to that 304.
Because if you add the 263, add the 263, 561 plus the 49, 662 should be that, the two right there.
That 304, 563, it didn't get put over onto this.
Right, because there's all these changes mid-year and it didn't get picked up that way. Because of this right here. This is the one that got changed mid-year so much.
So let me, I completely agree, because I can't correlate them either. But what's at the end of the day, at the bottom line, there's an increase of $55,000. So I can't tell on the budget sheet where that $55,000 is from, except this $81,000 that I think Mr. Shope's trying to get to. So what is the increase of that $55,000? On the budget sheet, top of page 76, it's a $55,000 increase.
That's right.
So regardless of what we're looking at, just explain what that means.
Gotcha. And I think what that really is explaining what that 81,000 is.
Correct.
It's the same thing. Same question.
So what's the 55?
If you add those two together, the 313233, what happened was these two are the same as that bottom total. What happened was there was a position that was a county position that was moved to UT. It's up here, and that's why these two don't agree with each other. They should, but if you that position was moved up there and it wasn't shown in your details. But this 313223 here agrees with the first two lines on your budget, and that's where the difference comes from. Because, and the details aren't shown here, that you probably should have been, but there was a position moved between here and here.
You add
263 plus 549. That gets you to 313.
Right, if you add 263, 561 plus 49, 662, it comes to 3132.
So then the 344, that in the.
You gotta add the 34 to it.
Yeah.
So it's 368.
That.
So it's a positive, what, 66?
Yes, those two together will be.
Okay.
So what's the positive 66?
That's right.
It's the 6% cost of living, the additional they're asking for here. And then last year, those positions moved from UT, and then also, because
that's the part that the part that I'm missing now. Get the cost of living, the moving to, and I clearly didn't do enough research on this one, but like.
Why are we paying for UT stuff?
Yeah, like what?
This one was approved here, if you click on that. After the budget was approved, they came back and the commission approved to give the cost of living and the salary adjustment to this one employee for the county.
Okay.
And then this one, because they didn't have enough money to match between them, they actually went and eliminated a position that went up here, and then they eliminated health insurance and it went into there to make the total of their invoice work. Otherwise, they were gonna have to eliminate UT full-time position.
But I'm still not tracking how we eliminated a position but came up with a $66,000.
No, we eliminated a county position that went up to, or did you eliminate?
So we eliminated a position that goes up to UT.
Up to here, so these two went the same.
But we're still paying for it? Like, I don't.
A percentage.
Percentage, yeah.
But I would think if we eliminated a county position and it went up to UT and now if we were paying 100% and now we're paying 30%, I would think that would come
The
down.
UT position's more expensive.
So, that much more expensive?
Well, no, there's a couple of things. There wasn't
Holy
any cost,
goodness.
Well, there wasn't any cost of living last year, so UT.
Why tuition's so high?
This is what the budget
So
committee.
this is 2 years of COLA.
Well, this is what budget, well, yes and no. This is what the budget committee told UT last year verbatim. Because you filed this late, we're not gonna give you any more money, but you can make it work between items, okay? That's what I brought back to you guys, because what they did was, they eliminated some cost over in these items and moved it over here last year. You don't see the benefit changes the same, so this 16,000 or 16,000 here is made up where they eliminated other costs to make it work as they were instructed last year.
So I want to, just a quick note here, because we just got 2 minutes on this. This one clearly, I don't think we're going to solve this. But
It's very confusing because about 5 things happened, and that's what's so confusing.
And
Number one, they didn't come in last year like they're supposed to. They were given no cost of living, 0 for anybody. What their words was that the UT represented at the time, because you guys filed late, basically carelessly, 2 years in a row, you're not getting anything. So you can do whatever you want to with your line items, but you're not getting any more line items. So what they did was, they came back and moved money around in here last year that made this number go up. Now, the other one you're seeing, when we made it work, and there's 10 columns, they should have been unhid in here.
It's Common Core math.
This is less, and this is more because of movement between here that makes the total of the 313 the same.
All right. I mean,
And then
I'm
what
tracking
makes
you
your
up Common
60
Core
is
County
now,
math.
if you take this change they did here.
I'm totally tracking up to the 313. I'm tracking that part.
Okay, so this right here is where they took things from like insurance, longevity, or whatever, and put it over here to make it work as they were instructed last year. So that brings you back into this year's numbers, and with where the commission approved this, I think it was in August, wasn't it? Was it August? They came back in August and gave them that money. So when you take the money they gave them, the money they let them move, it brought you back to here, which is $22,000 of that. 60, what's the amount you're adding together, 60? 15 and 81.
Just in the interest of brevity here,
And then these two,
can we get, and I hate to ask you for this, but can we get a kind of a, between the two of y'all, some kind of write-up in the next 24 hours or I guess the next 12 hours of what went on here? Because I think we won't.
I mean, I can do the best. I was not here through a lot of that. I came in after that budget process was done.
Okay.
But I can do the absolute best that.
All right.
I think what we really need to show the item.
One last question.
The correct amount of my stuff.
Let me ask.
Beth will fix that and see when we get up.
Is there any, I got a couple is there any additional headcount?
Additional headcount. So we did, so that position that was taken away, that person was a county paid employee. They're now 100% state funded.
Okay.
So we do have an additional. The one thing to look at with that is the budget that was approved for, that we did not get the cost of living. They approved the budget from the previous year, which was approved from the previous year.
Yeah.
Because the people that were in my role had gotten the budgets in late. So you've got to account for new people coming in that maybe have more experience. There have been some positions filled, that type of thing over those years. So that's what changes that.
But headcount between county and UT,
yeah,
no difference.
There's
no difference.
It's just
no, well, we've had some vacancies, but no difference in as far as number of positions.
Correct. That's my question. So
There's one less fully funded by county and one more partially totally.
Yeah, I got that piece of it, so appreciate it. So total headcount's the same.
Right.
We got the 6% COLA plus additional because we missed it in the prior year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
And then, so you've got 3 lines making it, or 4. That's that additional, where they move from the benefits to make the difference. Last year, this is their cost of living, the additional they request because they didn't get one last year they're asking for. And then this is the one that was approved mid-year by the county commission.
Okay.
They approved it after the budget. They gave it
In all.
And the only thing that's different other than that was the one employee asking for a merit increase on.
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
That was thanks for that question. That was helpful.
Does it make sense now? what we
Not
have?
fully, but I think it's closer. If possible, I know you
I
guys.
think if she just adds a line showing how these tie to the beginning, then tomorrow we should.
That may help. If we can get something like that, just a quick write-up, it could just be an email to this group, or even the full commission, it would be
You want me to
helpful.
get with
We'll change it on that sheet, and then I'll be here.
All right. So
you
let's,
want me to get with you, David, to write something up, or?
Well, I think right now we can go pull the budget, that Excel sheet I gave you last year, when we adjusted all this, that'll show everything. It was in November that was sent back to the committee, where we talked about the former commission, told them to do, or committee told them to do whatever they wanted to with it, it wasn't increasing. If we bring you that Excel sheet down here and change that to where it shows that movement, I think that's gonna give what you.
all right.
Would you like me to come for that?
No, you don't.
I don't think so.
You don't have to.
I don't
think
mind.
I was here longer than you were, I didn't worry about what happened.
You probably know more than I do.
Thank you, ma'am.
No problem, thank you.
All right.
There's about 6 things happening.
Archives. What page?
38 in the budget.
38 in the budget. Good eye.
There's 38, page 113.
Just any time.
Yeah. Okay. Ready when you are. Go ahead, ma'am. Ready when you are.
I'm Bonnie Martin.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think you've seen our budget. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not asking really for much other than salary raise. I want to reinstate the travel money, because we do go to the post office and that sort of thing, the printer, and that was taken away last year, basically because we didn't really use it. I went to those places, but I didn't claim it, so I mean, that's just one thing I'd like to put back in. I decreased the data processing supplies because we're not using as much toner, because we have 2 new pieces of equipment that can take flash drives, so that's saving a little bit of money there. The same with office supplies, because we're not using as much paper, because we're trying to push people towards using flash drives.
Got it.
One thing I'm asking for is the other supplies and materials, $100. That's to replace old microfilm. That microfilm is about 30+ years old, and it's deteriorating. It smells like vinegar, basically, and it's kind of melting together. It's $35 a roll. So I know we need at least several rolls, but some of that I'm going to take out of this year's budget, transfer some money over to that line item, and use some of that to get some of those replacements this year. And then in the next fiscal year, we'll do a couple more.
So, just kind of tracking through here, bottom line difference is $5,600 more than last year, ma'am?
Yes.
And the vast majority of that, I think, is just the cost of living. Is that it?
Right.
Pretty much. Okay. Any questions? I think you're good.
Oh, yeah, well, good, okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thanks, bye now.
All right, thanks, Jerry. General sessions 2. And
For page 49 for your budget, and pages 114 through 115 in your agenda. So they are asking for a new position.
2 part-time.
2 part-time.
so, go ahead, and I'll have a question on that one. Far away.
Okay. I mean, our budget, I think, is pretty standard from where it was last year. I mean, we asked for the cost of living increase. As Joel has pointed out, there's a rent aspect to my court right now that no one else has, because we're in a temporary facility. Now, admittedly, if you want to give me that money into the next year, you won't see me again for several years. But I don't anticipate that you're going
to. Probably a good call.
Yeah, Johnny, that's a good job.
That court building can have more expenses than really, right?
But if you don't ask, you don't get. So, but it really comes down, I mean, I think our primary increase has been cost of living. We are asking for some other positions, and that's sort of based upon the benchmarks that the committee had looked at previously. If you look at Rutherford, Montgomery, which were the benchmark counties, our budget in juvenile court is about somewhere in there of upper 700,000 behind Montgomery County and a couple million behind Roberts and Rutherford County as well. So, I'm happy to fill your questions. The other jurisdictions, Montgomery County has 4 general sessions judges, all of whom have juvenile court jurisdiction. Rutherford County has a juvenile court judge and 3 full-time magistrate positions. There's myself, Magistrate Begley, and we're asking for a part-time magistrate to help with the increased flow of cases that we've got. Our numbers are never going to be the numbers of sessions 1 or 3, but given the circumstances, we'll see. And that's been a long-term part of my plan, part of the 5-year plan when I first took office.
The money for the building you're talking about, is that in capital projects, David? Where's that coming from for the rental?
This is the rental you pay each year.
I know, but where is that showing?
It's showing right there on that line.
Which is always been
okay, 120.
Because we're ending halfway.
I was gonna say it's January, so that's cutting off.
So next year it should all come out and
Yeah.
cover some of the costs that you're going to.
So these, go ahead, Jeremy.
No, it answers it.
So these 2 new personnel, how many full-time personnel do you have?
I have 17.
Well,
Principals myself.
like administrative assistants and?
I have 3.
You have 3. What do the other sessions judges, the sessions courts have? They each have 2?
That's 2 administrative personnel for 1 judge. There's myself, Magistrate Begley, and we share 3.
And these new personnel, these part-time personnel, what are those roles gonna do?
One of them would be a part-time magistrate. Specifically, I think we're gonna look at either doing child support or delinquent docket. And the intake is to help offset for our intake office because we have the less number of personnel there. One of the folks that's in the intake office right now is also one of our diversion specialists. So her, sort of the outgrowth of what she does is changing, and what we'd like to change that to where she's able to help probation and youth services track more cases and help them.
So the magistrate's gonna take, would they be taking cases from you, or?
They would be taking cases either for myself or Magistrate Begley, but we found in the court system, when you open up a hole, things just flow into that hole.
So
my trial schedule, I think, would probably increase.
I mean, I would look at it the other, I mean, it's the day to day, excuse me for being smart, but I would say when you open up a new position, it finds new work to be done. But, so question, how many court cases are you guys doing currently?
What kind?
All total, in total, I think
What
that.
is our full number?
We're over 1,800 cases a year, but you got to think multi-day trials.
Yeah.
So we're different than general sessions 1 and 3 because we have termination proceedings that can be multi-day trials. We have
Okay, so it's hard to get I'm trying to get an apples to apples here, but.
There's no way to do it.
You're not doing 200 cases a day?
No.
It's very different.
I get it.
No, I average
Okay.
somewhere in the neighborhood of a regular docket where delinquent cases or cases that are not involving trial, I'm averaging somewhere about 30.
Okay.
And then you figure trial time on top of that, and then.
All right.
They may be day long.
So the magistrate would be handling cases, and then the intake would be doing intake specifically
We do
in the
petitions,
admin.
they do scheduling as well.
Is that, who's currently doing that?
In our office?
Yes, sir.
We have 3 different, we have a supervisor named Callie Gillum, we have Angie Riggins, and Carol Ritter are our intake.
So so they're sharing that load?
Yes.
And this person would be taking all of that load?
No, they would be only part-time, helping come in
But
and assist
they
with
would-
that.
okay, got
Ms.
it.
Gillum, for example, also liaises with the sheriff's department and helps with our detention process.
Got it. Okay, that was my question. Do we have any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sheriff, you may want to take a break before the next one, because this is where they took the library system, put it together, boxed and broke it back apart, so this one we may want to approach as the system, because we can show you the salaries in the system, how they're.
We are
they were asking.
19 minutes ahead, so let's take a 10-minute break, or 9-minute break, reconvene at 3:20, and then we'll take that extra 10 minutes for the library.
Hey, man, I think we need to show that one change in the meeting that I get you that suggestion.
Okay.
We'll better follow it better.
All right, because you see where I was coming at, right?
Well,
I'm like.
they moved that 16,000